It's
There you go.
Okay, great, thanks. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. The Pledge of Allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Certainly. Supervisor Moore.
Present.
Councilman McNamara.
present.
Councilman Isilli.
Here.
Councilman Powell.
Present.
Councilman Scavone.
Present.
Yes, yeah, we don't. Okay, thank you. All right, we'll start the meeting today with a review of the draft agenda for the August 13th meeting. There are 4 public hearings on for that day. The first is with respect to the Community Housing Fund acquisition of a workforce housing deed restriction on property located at 11 Sussex Street, Sag Harbor. The second public hearing is on the Community Housing Fund acquisition of properties located at 320 McGee Street, Tuckahoe, and 370 Moses Lane, Tuckahoe. The third public hearing is to consider historic landmark designation of the structure recognized as the James Tuttle family home located at 126 South Country Road, Remsenburg. And the fourth public hearing is to consider amending Town Code Chapter 312, Vehicle and Traffic, amending and adding a parking prohibition in designated locations, regulations on a portion of County Road 80, Montauk Highway, East Quogue. Oh, I guess that reads all right.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay, so let's get started with the resolution. Okay, Town Board Resolution ID number 47132, co-sponsored with Council Members Scavone and Pell, to authorize funding allocation for the Water Quality Improvement Project requested by the Town of Southampton Highway Department for stormwater remediation for Bay Avenue East, Hamlet of Hampton Bays. Town Board Resolution ID number 47133, co-sponsored with Council Members Pell and Scavone, to authorize funding allocation for the Water Quality Improvement Project requested by the Town of Southampton Highway Department for stormwater remediation for Bay Drive, Hamlet of Hampton Bays. Town Board Resolution ID number 47134, co-sponsored with Council Members Scavone and Pell, to authorize funding allocation for Water Quality Improvement Project requested by the Town of Southampton Parks and Recreation Department for Poxabog Golf Course to install an IA sanitary system.
Town Board Resolution 47019, authorized push of speed display from All Traffic Inc. using Sourcewell contract.
Can I, Madam Clerk, if I could be listed as a co-sponsor? Thank you, Councilman Powell.
Thank
Can
you
I
for
ask
co-sponsor.
Can I ask a question? Is there a procedure for getting one of these signs that, like a process that you go through to get the sign?
To get a sign?
You mean the
terms of what?
location where it
The
gets
The
placed?
location.
You're asking me?
No, I'm asking Councilman Powell.
I was trying to figure out who you
Because
were
I know a
asking.
lot of things, but that's not one of them.
What we've been doing is taking recommendations from the highway and Michael and myself, and if you have a spot, also the police department puts some input on it too. If you have a spot, we could, put that in too.
I just would
Because
like
these
to,
signs aren't, these 5, I think only 2 of them have actually spots to go to. The other 3 are. If you have a spot, we could put it there.
it's not that I have a spot, I just would like there to be a process, like, if there's a request for one, then
Yeah.
we dispatch the
Yeah.
trailer and see if there's actually a problem there
Yeah.
before we put the sign in.
Yeah,
just
these
so-
signs are made to be moved
They're
around.
removable.
And I would like PD to make the suggestions and,
Yeah, we actually were in a meeting the other day, spoke to them about that.
okay.
There's a lot of people want them.
A lot of people want
Yeah.
them, and I just, I know there's people that have previously asked them in when we weren't
Yeah,
putting
and
them in.
he's actually, the police is actually taking information and, and doing once a week or whenever they rotate doing tickets.
And I will also add that when we do receive requests, I try my very best to do site visits. I usually bring Tom Houghton Tom Neely as well, and I have brought the chief, I have brought Charlie and Mark to those sites to determine whether or not we do identify speeding vehicles. We'll spend an hour taking notes of how many cars are going by.
Did I put haphazardly?
Right, we are looking at, where the comments are coming from, and if there's a dense, amount of comments coming from a particular intersection that we think is worth putting a sign there, we'll have somebody go out and take a look and we'll place it there.
I know, I think in about 2 weeks, a couple will be moved.
Yeah.
Because we spoke to
I just
them.
wanted to make sure there was a process.
There, based on some of my recommendations and some of the recommendations of the task force, the traffic task force, we are going to need, in my opinion, we need somebody, when these traffic concerns come to the board, they should go to a particular coordinator. I think that's right. I think that's an important piece to this. It's not just the speed displays, but it's also other traffic-related concerns that I think is necessary, so that there is that coordination between police, highway, and engineering.
Plus, we have to keep track exactly where they are.
Yeah.
And how long they've been there.
And, analyze the data.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you.
Oh yes, look at that. Town Board Resolution ID number 47027, co-sponsored with Councilman Schiavone. Authorize the purchase of waste and recycling equipment and containers from Waste Quip using a Sourcewell contract.
What was this for? I wasn't clear on what, is this for municipal works? Or,
It's a good question.
and how many? I couldn't tell.
It's a good question. I'm not liaison to waste management, so I'm not sure why I was put on this.
Me neither.
Maybe it's for something else.
Oh, these
Councilman
are,
Schiavone, do you have any?
these are the garbage cans from
Yeah.
town.
I think it's part of our. Is it a normal procedural?
Right, the dumpsters that we have, that are at the transfer station, we periodically get new ones. That's how I read it, but we could certainly ask Tom. But authorizing the purchase of waste and recycling equipment is a good thing, and it's one of the things that the town does, so.
He's
To
on
me, it seemed
trailers.
like an order of business that
I
we
think,
do.
I think these are actually physical garbage cans.
Okay,
They're not trailers.
$35,000
No, we
worth.
did,
Good.
Bill, we did those in the last board meeting, we did
Yeah.
the garbage cans to hold the additional if they couldn't get a container there.
Well,
Yeah.
waste and recycling equipment and containers, that's what,
This is in the
I'm
budget,
good
so
with that.
it's.
Yeah, I'll
No, it's
find
not
out
in the
before.
budget, actually.
I'll ask.
again,
It's- We've been talking.
I'm proud to sponsor it.
When it says very
Yeah, it is.
scale,
I'm not-
If,
it
because
wasn't,
we were
it was
talking
fine
to Tom,
money.
and he said he didn't have enough of those, the trailers where people put the
Those are
waste.
$180,000.
Yeah, they're 180,000 each, and he was putting, requests in the budget for it, so I just was surprised to see this, and I didn't think it was the same thing, but I just wasn't sure what it was.
You
It
have something?
doesn't say how many,
Tatiana is here.
but,
Do you have something for this?
Yeah.
Oh, do you want to? Go up to the podium
Oh,
and
good.
let us know.
No,
of course,
But
we wanna,
You can sit
You
here.
can sit here too.
no, just I had a question regarding the waste equipped downward
Yeah.
resolution.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're getting picked up on the microphone. She might need to go to the podium.
She is now.
yeah, the waste clip, we just weren't clear
Yes,
on
good
what it
morning.
was.
I don't,
That is
Yeah,
a
these are
purchase.
pretty good.
CPF is planning to purchase dump containers, but also other departments will benefit from piggybacking of that contract. So that's why we put in there that available to all the different
for
GLs. This purchase is for CPF,
CPF. Good to know.
This is for CPF
Dock container?
no dumpster containers.
dumpsters.
So
For
waste,
CPF?
so recycling equipment and containers, you're saying is for CPF,
Yes, they're buying
but this is coming out of various GL accounts.
because parks and other departments sometimes buy containers, this type of containers. So when we have that situation, we left all the various GLs from every department
It's shared.
Okay,
to
Yeah.
share.
And actually, I was just upstairs talking to her about that, where the highway and the water authority could piggyback on the blacktop to save money for the town. The same idea.
Yeah, so.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sorry about that.
This is not
No,
new.
Thanks,
good, thank
Tatiana.
you.
We do this quite a bit.
Town Board Resolution ID number 47090, co-sponsored with Councilman Pell. To authorize purchases of groundskeeping, repair parts, service, and accessories from Suffolk County contract with Malvasi Equipment Company, Inc.
Town Board Resolution 47022, authorize the purchases of technology catalog solutions from SHI International using Sourcewell contract.
Town Board Resolution 47115, authorizing septic and stormwater drainage system maintenance from Environmental Services, Inc. using Southampton Public Schools contract.
Nice.
Town Board Resolution ID 47121, authorize supervisor to sign contract with L.K. McLean Associate Engineer to survey DPS for professional engineer design permit and service for Bay Drive, Hampton Bays bulkhead replacement.
Town Board Resolution 47140, authorize the supervisor to sign a contract with SourcePass Contemporary LLC to provide engineering support services to assist the town with the replacement of storage area network at Town Hall.
Town Board Resolution ID 47123, authorized to purchase 2 new Hustle Super Z Hybrid Zero turn mowers for all island equipment, use of ISLIP contract.
Town Board Resolution ID number 47100, co-sponsored with Councilman Scavone, to authorize the supervisor to enter into an agreement with Hayduck Engineering LLC for municipal engineering consulting services on an on-call basis. Oh, okay, no, that's fine. Town Board Resolution ID number 47113, co-sponsored with Councilman Scavone, to authorize the supervisor to execute a 2024 renewal with Bentley Systems, Inc. for their ProcureWare cloud-hosted software solution to manage the town's operations for bidding and contracts. Town Board Resolution ID number 46962, to authorize the supervisor to execute a contract extension with First Coastal Corp. For professional consulting services as it relates to the North Sea Beach Colony Beach Erosion Control District. Town Board Resolution ID number 47122, co-sponsored with Councilman Scavone, to authorize the supervisor to sign an intermunicipal agreement between the town of Southampton and the county of Suffolk for the Long Island Greenway Phase 2 East Grant Agreement. Town Board Resolution ID number 47141, co-sponsored with Councilman Pell, to authorize the supervisor to sign any and all documents with Lease Servicing Center, Inc., doing business as National Cooperative Leasing, for the lease purchase of a high-side dump broom sweeper from Suffolk County Brake Service using Sourcewell contracts. Town Board Resolution ID number 47023, to authorize the supervisor to sign the 2024 Bridgehampton Child Care and Recreation Center Cultural Arts Recreation Grant for $1,000.
Supervisor, I'd like to co-sponsor that with you. Good.
Town Board Resolution ID 46991, awarded authorized supervision to sign contract with Exvis Service, Inc. for Cobb Road shoreline stabilization.
Town Board Resolution ID number 47145, co-sponsored with Councilman Pell, to recall and amend the Town Board Resolution number 2024-185, authorize the supervisor to sign any and all documents with the Lease Servicing Center, Inc., doing business as National Cooperative Leasing for the lease purchase of Gas-Back back truck from Suffolk County Brake Service using Sourcewell contracts, amending the source of the funding. Town Board Resolution ID number 47112, co-sponsored with Councilman Scavone, to recall and amend Town Board Resolution 2024-844, authorizing the supervisor to execute any and all documents with Quan Software Engineering, Inc., doing business as Verapic, Inc., to renew the license maintenance agreement for Verapic software. Just to change an amount.
Town Board Resolution 47035, reject all bids requirement contracts to furnish to install microsurface.
Town Board Resolution ID 47015, co-sponsored with Councilman Scavone. 2024 notice to bidders for Hampton Bays Water District SCADA Contracts A, tank, gauging, and fiber optic cable installation. Town Board Resolution ID 47018, co-sponsored with Councilman Scavone. 2024 notice to bidders for Hampton Bays Water District SCADA Contract B SCADA system upgrades.
Town Board Resolution ID number 47136 to accept New York State Law Enforcement Technology Grant, although I would like to correct some language in the first whereas clause in the last line after the $50,000 to read, instead of the language that's there, to put for the purchase of police-related technology. Semicolon.
And Madam Clerk,
Supervisor, I'd like to co-sponsor, please.
I'd like to also co-sponsor.
Myself too, please.
This is a
So add me as well, Cindy.
well, the whole board. This is also something that, we've been talking about at, during our traffic task force meetings. I believe Supervisor, correct me if I'm wrong, this has also to do with the drones that will go up in the air, special drones, or that will go up in the air during accidents to help speed up some of the
I'm not
This
sure
leaves it
that's
open
right.
so it can be used for
A lot of different
several
things.
things.
Yeah, so I want
Flock cameras.
Yeah, I just want to thank Chief Kiernan for really working hard on this, and the police department for working towards this grant. This is going to be very helpful for the future. in
Our
public
police have
safety.
put a lot of resources into technology over the past decade.
Yep.
The previous chief, was particularly interested in that. And so we put portions of the budget. We also got donations from the community for technology, particularly the Blue Dream and the Greek Church contributed $100,000 toward that effort. So we are doing a fine job at that. And so this will help a great deal.
Yeah.
Very
Thank
good.
you, Chief. Town Board Resolution ID number 46296 to amend the 2024 adopted budget for special events. Town Board Resolution ID number 47125 to amend the 2024 budget for various departments. And Town Board Resolution ID number 47128 to amend the 2024 to 2028 capital budget for renourishment of the North Sea Beach Erosion District. Should that be erosion control district, or it doesn't matter? Erosion,
I think it should be.
yeah,
Yeah, it
just
should
add
be.
the word control, Cindy, please. Town Board Resolution ID number 47135 to amend the 2024-2028 capital budget for Water District Subaqueous Crossing.
I'd like
The
to be
Hampton
added as
Bays
a
Water
co-sponsor,
District.
please, Cindy.
Town Board Resolution ID number 47129 to authorize the Highway Fund pay-as-you-go for speed cameras.
Are these speed cameras or monitors?
Well, they're cameras, and I wanted to amend the second whereas to make it more specific. These are for construction sites, and
To enhance the safety
yeah,
management.
the Highway Department has been in communication with Senator Palumbo with the goal of getting the approval from the state for the cameras.
So we would need, because this has also been a very significant topic of conversation for helping to mitigate traffic safety concerns. So I hope that we will also apply these if we are actively trying to do this for construction sites, that we are also actively trying to do this for traffic safety issues.
Well, we
Especially in
can-
high,
That's the
High
legislation will do.
yeah.
The legislation will enable you to do that for enforcement purposes.
Okay.
This right now is for monitoring purposes, but they can also, at a construction site, send a letter
So
letting them know that there's an issue, you were doing this amount of speed.
Right.
So it'll slow.
And
So can I,
send the letter.
can I just let me just finish my question, Councilman, if you don't mind. So if this is contingent on a state approval, correct?
The first part of it is not. You can use them at the construction sites for
Okay.
informational purposes and for, sending out letters. You don't need the enabling legislation for that, but
Right.
you can't enforce it with any, teeth until you get the ability to do so.
So then I guess I ask that we do the same thing then for, if we're able to do that for construction sites, just issue letters. I ask that we consider doing the same thing for Noyak Road and other roads that we've identified throughout the town as causing speeding.
Every letter has a cost, so just so that's aware, it's not a just
Well, that's
send
my
letters.
question, is who sends the letters
Yeah,
and where's
the
that money
company
coming from?
sends them.
You know, so it'd be a significant amount.
Yes.
Whereas Noyak Road, the average speed is 36 miles an hour and the speed limit's 30. So that's half of the people of 12,000 cars a day
I know, but
are
we've
going
been-
over the speed
we've
limit that
been
would require
hearing-
letters. But Councilman, if I could finish, so who would be on this particular one? Would this come out of highway? The letters, would they come out of highway?
I don't know what was anticipated, but it would make sense if they wanted to do it, that's because they're the ones that are monitoring it at this point,
Uh-huh.
because those are construction sites, but I don't really know what they intended when they did this.
And would it be every car and so Councilman Pell, you're the liaison to highway. Perhaps you want to speak on this a
I will
little bit?
find out.
I actually called the highway superintendent this morning and
Yeah.
asked about this.
Me
He
too,
said
we
they
all
would
did.
piggyback with the police department contract. I don't know who would pay for it.
I don't know what that means, but okay.
I would assume they would pay for it as a piggyback. I don't know, but I do know that every letter has a significant cost. So.
Yeah. I like the idea. I just, who's doing it, how it's adjudicated, because this is a form of adjudication. Even if you're sending a letter, you're telling someone that they've,
And it's
in
an
violation.
it's an important issue, and I
Yes.
think that I think right now the priority that I believe that the town is facing is having these cameras utilized for traffic related issues, keeping residents safe on their roads. So I'm just a little bit caught off guard by this resolution as it pertains to construction sites, that we're moving ahead with that when traffic issues have seriously been an issue in this town. And we've been trying to work day in and day out to try to find these solutions. And cameras have been brought up at every single meeting, and questions of whether or not we can do so has followed those conversations. But here we are doing it for construction sites. So I'm just a little bit concerned.
It's not enforcement though,
on-
Michael, I want to be clear about
I
that.
understand that it's not enforcement, but the discussion on these cameras being used and letters being also utilized as a possible solution, not a citation, has also been discussed. And follow-up conversations of whether we can do that or not has also been sort of holding us from actually doing anything. And I feel that we should really look at prioritization here of what our constituents really need, and that's traffic safety.
Well, I think we were all surprised to see it on here because we didn't know that
Mhm.
it was going to be on
Yep,
here or
yep.
that anybody was actually working on it, because it has come up
Right.
in context of traffic safety. And what the highway superintendent mentioned to me this morning when I called and asked him was that he thought one step at a time. It would be easy to get the cameras for the construction sites, and that would be the first step, and then get them for traffic infractions.
So if-
that was the theory that he
So if that's
said.
if that's the step that we have to take, I'm supportive of that. I just hope that we are also thinking about the future and what the priorities are of the residents of the town.
I imagine too that the letters don't go out. You might be a threshold, like if it's 30 miles per hour and if you're doing 38, but if you do 42, it might go out like 10 miles out.
He told me that there was a use for these cameras regardless of sending letters, and that's what I asked him. I said, listen, if there's no legislation, if you can't send letters, do you still want these cameras? He said yes. They still work as a speed, I guess kind of like the speed signs, but these have camera capabilities. It's basically like one step above the speed signs.
Yeah.
Sounds like they have actual camera capabilities,
But
but the speed signs don't.
Perhaps we should talk to, one of us talk to Senator Palumbo to say, is it going to be a heavier lift to get it for traffic infractions? Should we ask for the legislation to include both things? Or just start with the construction sites, which is what,
It seemed to me like the
Superintendent
construction
Ricardo
sites
thought.
were an easier lift because they're already in place in the state. In construction zones, the state just don't have our roads listed in that legislation.
We can give them a call and find out, Michael, myself.
Okay.
so.
And keep in mind that the session isn't until next year, so,
Well,
best case
I mean-
scenario wouldn't happen until.
Yeah, because I did have a
25.
conversation with Assemblyman Thiel about this, and he said that we would have to have state enabling legislation for the speed cameras, and that would have to happen next session.
Mhm.
So, but that's fine.
Yeah, maybe we want to do it all at once. And in the meantime, if we purchase these, we could at least use them if we wanted to send out the letters, which is something that the chief had said we could do for the traffic infraction enforcement also.
Right.
So,
Okay.
do we want to limit them though then? I was going to add this language for enhanced safety at construction sites. I mean, that's the purported reason, but do we want to limit it by adding that language? or
It
just
sounds to
leave
me
it
like
open?
these could be used anywhere.
Okay, so I'm just
Yeah,
gonna
we're
let
gonna-
this one stay the way it is.
They could be used just as speed signs. What I'm saying is they don't have to be used in certain sites. You can use them. It sounds to me like it's like the trailer, like you can move it around and you can collect data with it. You don't have to do any letters. You don't have to do any enforcement. You can simply use it to collect data.
But it has the capability of
Yes.
photographing license plates.
Yes, and at which time they would have to then get a
Is-
subscription for it, which would be a separate resolution.
Right, so would be software that would
Yes.
have to support this to extrapolate the numbers from the license plate and get somebody's home address, send them the picture.
Software costs. I mean, it's a big expense.
This seems
So
like a
we're-
pretty significant policy decision here that, perhaps we might want to discuss further rather than having it on a resolution. I do support it. I like the idea. I just, think the town might want to make a coordinated ask to the state for this enabling legislation with more information.
Yeah, I'm
we
not sure.
potentially also get a
And a
state?
direction.
Could we also potentially get a state grant for construction safety?
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of them out there.
So,
And just to be clear, this would come out of highways budget as
Yeah, I
pay
mean,
as
you
you
wanna
go.
just-
This
you
is
wanna
not,
just
we're not allocating it new monies or
Do you want to
anything.
just keep it here, and then if you don't have satisfactory answers, you can just
Yeah.
take it off on
Yeah.
Tuesday, or if you want to have a policy discussion, you can
Because
take
if
it
it's a
off.
building block just to helping us get to where we need to go with traffic related
Yeah.
issues, I think it's important to keep
So
on
maybe you
there.
guys can talk to the superintendent of highways
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
interim and
Yeah.
figure out what you want to do.
That's fine.
We do that tomorrow.
and we won't make it subject to New York State legislation because we can use it without the legislation. All right, okay. Thank you. Town Board Resolution ID number 47062, co-sponsored with Councilman Scavone, to deposit monies into escrow account for professional services in connection with the Lewis Road PRD Golf Course Groundwater Monitoring Review. Town Board Resolution ID number 47036, to authorize additional funds for legal services by the Law Office of Vincent Toomey Esquire for 2024. Town Board Resolution ID number 45102, to authorize the town attorney to accept settlement from Geico General Insurance Company for damage to a North Sea ornamental fence for a claim which occurred on September 16th, 2023.
Town Board Resolution ID 47095, resolution of adoption amending Town Code Chapter 312-26, prohibiting parking CR 80 on Montauk Highway East Quad.
We're gonna have a public hearing on that.
Mhm.
Did we already do the resolution to set the public hearing?
The public hearing
Yeah,
is
it's
on
on,
this meeting.
that's the one that's on.
All right, Town Board Resolution ID number 47048, to authorize the CPF tax refund pursuant to the first-time homebuyer's exemption for Thomas J. Tucker.
Could I co-sponsor that, Cindy? This is good. We haven't seen one of these in a while.
Town Board Resolution ID 47117, co-sponsored with Councilman Iacilli. Authorization of cost waiver for the Southampton Animal Shelter Foundation Special Events Application Fee.
Town Board Resolution 47026, sponsored by the whole board, authorized waiver of the fire marshal fee for the 2024 Hampton Classic. Town Board Resolution 47024, again sponsored by the whole board, authorized waiver of the police fee for the 2024 Hampton Classic Horse Show. Town Board 47010, again with the whole board sponsoring, the tent fee adjustment for the Hampton Classic for 2024.
Town Board Resolution ID 47124, co-sponsored with Councilman Iacilli. Authorized waiver of Parks and Recreation Facility use fee for the Peconic Invitational Cross Country Race.
Tough course.
That's you, Bill.
Town Board 47142, elect to consider a formal application to change zoning designation from residential R40 to highway business HB for the three adjacent parcel, 2000 Country Road 39 and 2036 Country Road, County Road 39, and 161 Hill Station Road with existing commercial business in Shinnecock Hills.
We're not doing the change of zone for they like to consider for the Eastport.
I think they were gonna
Did,
wait on that
did we
one.
get separate requests from all of these parcels, owners of all of these parcels, or was it just
We
the
had
one?
letters with the,
Yes.
Okay, good.
They're gonna wait on these.
I think this one's been pending since earlier in the
Mhm.
year,
Yeah.
so that's
We
why
were
we're
waiting on
putting
that
this one through now.
Okay.
okay.
But
I
did
just
you,
know it had sponsors, that's why I just wondered why it got held with, it had sponsors on it, so.
what had sponsors?
The elect to consider for the Eastport
Eastport.
project.
I would like to have an opportunity to talk about it a little bit more before we
So
push
we're
it
having
through.
another work session?
Yeah, or we could talk individually. I just didn't have a comfort level with it.
Just put it on for work session next time. Is that good? Would that be good with you, Cindy? Maria?
I don't need another work session, but if everyone
Probably
does, that's
I
fine.
need another work session, just need to investigate the implications of the, the extent of the zoning, the current
Okay.
zoning versus what the new zoning would bring. But did you say that you wanted to put a limitation on this one, or is this not the time to do it
Limitation.
with respect to the egress and ingress?
No, that would happen through the process.
We wouldn't condition the elect to consider.
Cause you're doing it from the 3 parcels.
Hmm?
You're doing it from the 3 parcels, so that was your condition that they all do it, cause you're gonna ask for cross-access, and since you have them all as applicants, you don't need to condition.
No, Councilwoman McNamara made a suggestion that I thought was a good one about, using exiting.
Yeah, it's something I thought that we could
Here.
potentially do through the process when we do this.
You can make it a condition of
everything else,
an
yes.
approval should you go with an approval.
Okay, you don't have to do it now. All right, thank you.
Town Board Resolution ID 47085, co-sponsored with Councilman Iacilli, approval of 2024 junkyard permits.
Town Board Resolution ID number 47101, 2024 part-time salaries. Town Board Resolution ID number 47082, accept resignation of David G. Van Scoy, automotive equipment operator in the Highway Department. Town Board Resolution ID number 46911, to accept the retirement of James Wilson, highway labor crew leader in the Highway Department. Town Board Resolution ID number 47093, to appoint Andrew Powers to the audiovisual production manager in Sun 20 TV.
Supervisor, I'd like to co-sponsor as a liaison.
Okay.
Thank you.
Town Board Resolution ID number 47087, to appoint Sean McDermott to Chief Building Inspector position from the Civil Service list. Town Board Resolution ID number 47030, to appoint Michael Chi to Senior Building Inspector position from the Civil Service list. Town Board Resolution ID number 47083, to appoint Christian Estrada to Building Inspector position from the Civil Service list. Town Board Resolution ID number 47029, to appoint David Kanji to Principal Building Inspector position from Civil Service list. Town Board Resolution ID number 47086, to appoint Joseph Archer to the Building Plans Examiner position from the Civil Service list. Town Board Resolution ID number 47084, to appoint Matthew Feldman to Building Permits Examiner position from Civil Service list. Town Board Resolution ID number 47040, to appoint Christian Mortiz to Senior Office Assistant position from the Civil Service list. Town Board Resolution ID number 47028, to appoint Melissa Rankin to Ordinance Inspector position from the Civil Service list. Town Board Resolution ID number 47061, to appoint Brittany Drago to Records Management Assistant position in the Town Clerk's Office. Town Board Resolution ID number 47126, to appoint Diane File to Senior Office Assistant Spanish-speaking position from the Civil Service list. Town Board Resolution ID number 47109, to appoint Alex Kosinski to Groundskeeper 1 in the Parks Department. Town Board Resolution ID number 47098, to appoint William Rayner to Maintenance Mechanic 1 in the Parks Department. Town Board Resolution ID number 47108, to appoint Michael Heim to Justice Court Clerk position in the Justice Court. Town Board Resolution ID number 47120 to promote Detective Eric Rosanti to rank of sergeant in the Southampton Town Police Department, co-sponsored by the entire board. And Town Board Resolution ID number 47041 to appoint Police Officer Matthew Meyer in the starting position. And Town Board Resolution ID number 47042 to appoint Police Officer Spanish-speaking Celeste Ceballos to the Academy. Town Board Resolution ID number 47043 to appoint Police Officer Joshua Carl to the Academy. Town Board Resolution ID number 47119 to appoint Police Officer Sean Murphy to the Academy. Town Board Resolution ID number 47118 to appoint Police Officer Christopher Smith to the Academy. And Town Board Resolution ID number 47066 to recall and amend Resolution number 2024-920 as it relates to the new salary for promotion to lieutenant. This is a lot of new employees and promotion. Congratulations, everybody.
I
It's
also
nice to
just
fill
wanna-
the ranks.
I just want to note that, like, just about all of these are, almost all of the building department employees are current employees that are just, now they were provisional, they're being hired because the list finally came out.
Mhm.
And a lot of these are, I think all of these are filling vacancies, they're not new positions, so.
Yeah, filling vacancies, and with the police academy, those were all approved by the board in the budget for this year.
And those are all also vacancies, no new officers, no new numbers, so.
Mm-hmm. Nice to fill the vacancies finally. Town Board Resolution ID number 47065, co-sponsored by the entire board, to recall and amend Resolution number 2024-836 as it relates to compensatory leave for closing of town facilities. Town Board Resolution ID number 47102, the transfer employee from the Highway Department to the Waste Management Division.
Town Board Resolution 47138. Resolution to set public hearing to consider amendment to Town Code 123-525 with respect to road review requirements.
This was Katie came and gave us a review
Yes.
on that, right?
Town Board Resolution ID 47099, notice of public hearing to consider amendment to Chapter 330-203 of the Southampton Town Code entitled Exempt and Prohibited Signs to regulate political signs in a manner consistent with all other signs. Sunday, there are some minor adjustments, there's nothing substantive, but I will get them to you.
I'll get them.
Town Board Resolution ID number 47131, co-sponsored by the entire board for the notice of public hearing to consider the acquisition of 180 and 182 Red Creek Road in the hamlet of Hampton Bays, New York, and to amend the CPF management and stewardship plan to include the properties. Town Board Resolution ID number 47130, co-sponsored by the entire board, the notice of public hearing to consider the acquisition of 867 Millstone Road in the hamlet of Noyak, New York, and to amend the CPF management and stewardship plan to include the property. Bottom of page
Yeah.
75.
Awesome, thank you. Town Board Resolution 47060, sponsored by the whole board. Notice of public hearing for exemption for Town Code Chapter 314 entitled Water and Battery Energy Storage System, request for application of Need Not LLC, FKA Central Solar Inc., and Island Clean Energy.
Town Board Resolution 47116, a resolution setting a public hearing to consider amending Town Code 330-10B8 to correct the typographical error in the table of use regulations as it relates to schools for the intellectually disabled.
Sunday, I'd like to be added as a co-sponsor.
Myself too, please.
This
Yeah,
was
me as
actually,
well, Sunday.
this was actually my first resolution, was to correct the language in the entire Town Code. This was an oversight in the table, the table use of regulations, so we're correcting that. That's what it is.
Thank you, Tom
So
and
we'll
John.
make the
Thank
whole
you.
board. Town Board Resolution ID number 47105 to authorize the acquisition of 1065, it's co-sponsored by the entire board, to authorize the acquisition of 1065 Millstone Road in the hamlet of Noyak, New York, and to amend the CPF management and stewardship plan to include the property.
Town Board Resolution 47106, authorize the acquisition of 21 Deer Run, also known as 1451 Deerfield Road in the hamlet of Watermill, New York.
Okay, thanks everybody. That was a good review. So now we're going to move forward with the second item on the agenda, which is a proposed zone change request on Spionk Riverhead Road to light industrial and 1169 Spionk Riverhead Road. And Janice Shear is here from the Town Planning and Development, Elizabeth Vale, Greenberg Troward, and John Montecalvo, property owner.
Good morning,
Oh,
and Anthony
and
Trezza,
Anthony.
Principal
Hi,
Town
Anthony.
Planner.
everybody.
Anthony has been looking at this for some time, so I just brought him cases. Good morning. Good morning, I'm Liz Vale with the law firm of Greenberg Traurig. We're located at 2317 Montauk Highway in Bridgehampton. Hold on one second.
If you have enough.
I'm here with Mr. John Montecalvo. And,
How are you?
is that good?
They're the same
Everybody has
ones,
one? Great. So Mr. Montecalvo owns 5 properties in Spionk, which are highlighted on the map I just provided to you. The front page is GIS, just the outline of the map, and the underneath is the matching aerial. So if you want to look at them back and forth, you can. So the first property, and we're here seeking to request a zone change from CR 200 to LI 40 under Town Code Section 33185 and New York State Town Law Section 265. And the main properties it involves are the 3 properties which are located here at 1089 Spionk Riverhead Road, which is comprised of 7.7 acres, 1129 Spionk Riverhead Road, which is comprised of 9.8 acres, 1169 Spionk Riverhead Road, which is comprised of 9.2 acres, and then there's 2 other contiguous lots, which you can see right across from Clay Pit Road, and those don't have an actual address on GIS, but they are comprised of 13 acres. So originally these properties were actually zoned G industrial in 1957, and then in 1972 they were rezoned to LI 200, which is light industrial 200. And then in 1983, they were rezoned to CR 200, which is country residence, 200,000 square foot lots. So it's 5 acres.
What year was that?
1983. And the bottom properties, which are in red, if you can see on the map I gave you, is all LI 40. So these properties actually abut LI 40 zoning. So we're really asking for an extension of the LI 40 zoning to include these 5 properties. So this.
But what was it before? It went to the board, prior board made it residential. It was previously.
So originally, when you first started zoning, it was industrial, G industrial it was called, with requirement of 20,000 square foot per lot. And then in 1972, they zoned it to LI 200. And then in 1983, they split it up and they zoned the properties to the south, LI 40, and they rezoned this entire area to the north, CR 200, which is country residence 200,000.
Can I interrupt you?
Yeah, sure.
Maybe I'm not seeing it on the map.
Yeah.
But the map looks like this is all already LI 40.
Oh, no.
And I'm having trouble figuring out
Yeah.
exactly which.
So the red right here is LI 40.
Okay.
See, this is CR 40.
Yeah.
Then this is all CR 200. From
Okay.
like here all the way around.
And then these are the ones you want.
Yes, these
Okay.
5 lots,
Okay.
which are
I'm looking in the red.
Sorry,
Yeah, I
which
was
abut the
looking at
LI
that too.
40.
Gotcha.
So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Does
Perfect.
everybody see
Yep.
that?
We
Right here,
actually
right?
have a zoomed in version of this.
That makes more sense.
Yeah, and they abut the LI 40, which is directly south.
Yeah.
Okay, and then this is all, see, up here,
This
it's all
is
CR2,
CR2, right?
Okay.
Does anybody else have questions? So this application is really stemming from reviewing the surrounding industrial uses in this area. And if you look at the original GIS I just handed you, you can see that to the west of the subject property is a pre-existing non-conforming junkyard. That's right here. It's right here. You can see it on the aerial. There's junk to the very edges of that property. That abuts our property. And then when you look further to the west, there's the Hampton Sand Corp Mining Corporation, which owns over 100 acres. They're mining approximately 60 acres of property for sand. Then to the east of the subject property is the South Fork Mason Supply Company. And further east is the Next Gen Mining Operation. They own 90 acres and they're mining approximately 30 acres for sand. And then next to this, further to the east, is the West Hampton Property Associates, Inc. They own approximately 113 acres and they're mining 100 acres. Then to the south of the subject property is the Monte Carlo Asphalt Plant, which is in the actual LI 40 zoning district. And further south, you can see I marked the BB&S lumber site, which is the site of former prior contamination. It's a designated New York State Superfund site, and it's regulated and monitored by the New York State DEC. And then also further to the south is the tip of the Spionk solvent plume contamination site, which is contaminated groundwater in the area, and it's still monitored by the New York State DEC. So based on the sheer number of active industrial uses in this area and prior contamination, we pretty much determined that the residential uses that would not really be economically feasible or environmentally advisable in this particular area for these 5 lots.
I wonder what was, maybe Janice could tell us, what was the legislative, motivation or in '83 when the prior board changed the zoning to 5-acre residential.
Well, there was it was like a time when all different lands were upzoned. It was like the great upzoning that took place. There's a lot of places that were wide swaths of areas were upzoned to 5-acre zone. They created a 5-acre zone and put it all around.
It's a huge area to the north. All of it is CR 200.
My question is, why are you trying to go to LI 40 and not back to the underlot? What is LI?
Because it actually abuts LI 40, and special trade contractor uses are permitted in LI 40 where they're not necessarily permitted in CR 200.
And that's the plan.
And those are yes, and those I'll do the conceptual plan after I just go through the zone change standards. But that's essentially what's even more necessary, I think, in the town is a little bit more flexibility with special trade contractor uses to be off-site, off residential parcels and in industrial areas like this. So when you're looking at a rezoning, it does help to think about what uses would be permitted in the CR 200 zoning district and whether they would be appropriate here. And first of all, for the reasons I stated, I don't think residential uses would really be appropriate here. I wouldn't want to live here. I don't know how you guys would feel about that. But residential community facilities are also permitted in areas like this, which are museums, firehouses, schools. And those are really not appropriate either because they're too far from residences and hamlet areas where people actually live and congregate and need such services. General community facilities, including hospitals, nursing homes, beach clubs, are also listed as permitted uses in CR 200. Obviously, there's no beach proximate to this location, and hospital and nursing homes are residential in nature. And I don't believe they're so appropriate to be so close to, again, industrial uses and in such a remote location from residential areas of the town.
But you don't need a zone change to continue to operate because it's already pre-existing use, right? So
there are no uses on these sublots.
I mean,
these uses, there's no uses permitted. I mean, there's no existing, these are vacant lots. We're asking for a zone change to allow them to actually be developed. And I'm going through the uses that are permitted under the zoning code, which I'm saying are not really appropriate for this area. Finally, the business uses that are permitted in CR 200 are agriculture, animal husbandry, horse farms, marinas and boat yards, and greenhouses. And obviously they're not near the water, so a marina and a boat yard is not really applicable. And the properties are located in the Pine Barrens compatible growth area and have extensive clearing restrictions under the APOD as well for the town. So I don't believe any agricultural use of the property there would be appropriate. They're also not near any active farms. And again, the surrounding industrial uses would probably prohibit development under the current zoning. So it's our feeling that obviously the rezoning, and it's an extension of the LI 40 for these 5 lots. It would be consistent with the industrial character of the surrounding area. Rezoning to LI 40 would be a logical and natural extension of the existing zoning to the south, and the development of this area better reflects the actual conditions of the area. The rezoning would be in keeping with the changes that have already occurred in the surrounding area, and because of the industrial uses, the rezoning would not be a detriment to any surrounding property owners or the public. It's also consistent with the comprehensive planning that's been done in the town. The comprehensive plan has always noted the industrial nature of this area. The Eastport, Spionk, Remsenburg, West Hampton area study from 2004 examines the industrial uses in this area, and recommends a potential commercial industrial PDD for this area, which I know that's a bad word, but that's what it recommended at the time. It also recommends recreational uses for sand mines to be converted to, I believe, golf courses or something like that. So that's interesting, but that's not relevant to these 5 lots.
It also recommends the opening of Sunrise Highway so that to eliminate truck traffic on Old Country Road. And I know that we've been talking about that for 20 years.
Aside from this, we still need to
Aside from
advocate
this,
for
so
that.
that's something that should be considered as a long-range goal.
So we do have a conceptual plan that we're hoping to pursue for these 5 lots, which include ultimately preserving 30 acres of property. Let me just see if I can, I think.
Do you want us to tack it up on the wall list?
Yeah, can you do that? Or do you want to see it closer? How do you guys feel? I can
You
hold
tack it
out.
up on the wall.
Maybe tack it up on the wall, you can use the
Okay.
podium to discuss it.
Or you can just tack it on the wall.
You sure?
Can you see it if you
Oh.
tack it on the wall?
There you go.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, that's okay.
So it's funny
Is
because
it
it
that
actually
way?
goes like this. Yeah, it actually goes like this, sorry. So these are the 2 parcels. These will be preserved in their entirety.
Okay.
And then we're proposing, and this is the LI 40 zoning right here. We're proposing to rezone these if possible, you know.
So
obviously.
that one piece is already being used as a non-conforming use.
The
one
mounds of
further
that,
south.
the bottom of this
Asphalt
piece,
This.
yeah,
This.
that's,
It is.
yeah,
But
this.
these are proposed, yes, but this is all proposed. So these are.
Below the
But
black
below the
line.
proposed, what I'm getting
Below
at in
the black
that
line.
piece
Liz.
This is
is
recycling, yes, that's what you're looking at here. Recycling of the asphalt, yes, yes. So this is a 30,000 square foot contractor building. This would be a 22,500 square foot building, 10,000 square foot building, and then over here a 9,000 square foot office repair bay contract.
And then what's in front of
That's
it? What
current.
is that space?
Liz, just to clarify, that's currently being used as the lot that's furthest south, which would be 1169 Spionk Riverhead Road. Am I looking at this correctly in the picture here? It's actually being used, but it's
It looks like the asphalt plant is on what is
On
old
that
lot.
LI 40, is that?
It looks like
is
it's
true?
that.
Mr. Montecalvo?
Right here. These are what you're looking at.
This is
Yeah.
This is the 3rd lot
This is-
in your picture.
Right, we want to
And this
convert
is
this to
going-
LI 40
So,
as well.
I can
Yes.
answer
But
that.
what's
So
the
yes,
proposed
the-
Yes.
The
I'm
asphalt
correct.
plant worked its way
Yes.
to that property, which is proposed as part of this.
which
main
is
zone.
is it a
sort of
pre-existing
expanded into it.
non-conforming use, or is
Right.
it just being used and now we're asking for
I can't
LI
answer
40?
that entirely. It
Okay.
looks like it was an expansion that happened there without any.
Right.
What would the proposed use in that, where that is now?
It's just recycling. It's storage recycling. It's
So
just
it would
put in
remain,
LI 40.
it would remain as it is.
Yeah, it would remain as it is. We're
It-
not, this is the proposal to
It
put
looks like gravel
actual
storage.
buildings here and here, and then this would all be preserved.
asphalt
We're-
storage.
Okay.
We're in the
It's
compatible growth area, so we
But
have
you
to
move
preserve.
in, the asphalt plant would be in that lower right-hand.
The asphalt plant is here.
Yeah, but are what people saying that it's already
Recycling.
morphing into
Yeah.
that other one?
Yeah.
This
So
is
you would-
currently a
With this,
residential
you could expand
parcel that's being-
all the way into it, right?
that's being part of this
Yes, but
request.
that's not part of the actual plan. And actually, there's clearing restrictions that might limit that as well. So we'd have to look at that.
So I'm sorry to interrupt, you were saying you use that for broken asphalt now?
Correct. Most of the material, probably 75%, comes from the town of Southampton. We mill their roads, we repave their roads. So we pretty much run out of room at the asphalt plant to do the recycling. We're probably the biggest recyclers in the town of Southampton.
So
So
it's
you-
concrete aggregate and asphalt or?
Strictly asphalt.
Just strictly.
Yeah.
And it would
There's no
remain that
problem.
way.
So,
It would remain.
Counselor, the 3 parcels along Spionk Riverhead Road, I'm sure you're going to give us a percentage of which part is planned, providing permits are approved and all that. Which percentage is going to be set aside?
So
Aside from
these
the two-
entirely would be preserved, and
Got
all
it.
of this would be preserved.
Sure.
And it's 30 acres, which I have it all here, I'm sorry. Sorry.
Yeah, that's an important consideration.
So we're proposing to remain natural or revegetate, percent 75.86% of the site.
And that's a
Okay,
total
which
of the 5
Which
parcels.
is 30.8 acres.
And that-
Out of
that-
a 40-acre site.
All 5 parcels, that's
Correct.
good, okay.
And that's including.
Thank you.
Yep.
Janice,
Yes.
are these the Are these the mobile homes over here?
No.
Okay.
It's a junkyard.
That's a junkyard.
Junkyard. Okay.
Yeah.
One adjacent to the site?
Yes, it's adjacent.
It looks like almost that whole
It's not a-
section is already
Michael?
being used.
It's not a very active
Yeah, that'll
junkyard.
have to be addressed.
Yeah. No, I just
That's-
wanted to
When
see.
that's
We're
all we
seeking
go
to make
up
it
into.
LI-40.
Just for my knowledge, when did you make this change of zone application?
We haven't made it. We're here for a work session
Wait.
to introduce it to you, to see if you have an appetite to
we
consider
never-
We
it.
didn't even put it in elect to consider?
No, never.
Oh,
We would like
This
to.
is the elect to consider.
Yeah.
This is the
Right.
question.
so
now.
that we
Right.
had to get an application for an elect to consider then.
Well, the work session starts here with a
So there was
request.
an application made.
You don't, the
It's
way,
like conceptual.
it's a conceptual, it's not,
Because
I
this
can
is-
give
this
you an
is formal.
application tomorrow.
My
Yeah.
question is, just on process, and this has nothing really to do with you, this is outside of that, is generally when we get the information in where people are asking for a change of zone, we get an elect to consider packet, and we didn't have any information on this. So that's why I'm just.
we're
I was
asking
told to do the
questions.
work
We don't
session
know how
first.
to-
Yeah, I was
Oh,
told to come
yes.
for a work session first.
sorry.
To make sure everyone was interested in doing it. So that
Yeah,
we're
but I'm happy to
not-
submit a packet, believe me. I have a whole bunch of packets for you if you
They're pretty
want.
much done with it. And that's what you told me last time.
I just, yeah.
yeah. And that is, a little less formal this time.
Yeah, because I
It was
think we
sort of
we
like
probably would
taking
have
the
had less of these
temperature of the
questions
board
if we
to
had
even
more
see if there
information
was-
before we got to here.
Yes.
But that's neat.
I'm happy to submit, trust me.
Sure.
I'd
So,
like to hear your take on this.
well, me personally, as
You or Anthony?
I mean, usually there's a report, right?
we
An
will
initial
absolutely
report.
issue you
Why-
a report. I don't have to give you the report on the day of the meeting, so I'd like to try to do them. We have a bunch going on at the moment, so I didn't have a chance to write the report yet. But yes, the way the code is written, I will issue you a report pursuant to that. I think that it makes sense to expand the LI-40. Obviously, this is compatible growth and APOD, so the clearing restrictions are very important. And rehabilitating the area. I'm sorry?
Is it the Pine Barrens?
Yes, compatible growth,
Compatible
meaning
growth.
it's
Oh,
not
okay.
the core, they're allowed to
They're allowed to build.
build, but, and in a compatible fashion. My concern is just that, just including the 5 parcels doesn't work out what's going on with this junkyard. They're not necessarily a party to this.
No, they're not
No.
a party at all.
But there is that
Completely
next
different
to it.
owner.
I
And-
thought you said that you'd been working on it for a while.
Well,
How
they
could you
had
be working on
initially
it if you just came to us?
They originally came for a potential use variance, and,
Well, we've been meeting with long-range planning about this for years. So
Yeah.
Mr. Montecalvo's been trying to get this addressed for years with long-range planning. So they've been familiar with this issue and these
especially
properties for a long time.
when it came to the commercial industrial
Yeah.
PDD, we were trying to work that out for
Yeah.
a long time.
Going back to Anna suggested the whole area got.
Anna Thrumholst, he
Yeah,
said.
this is
to,
going back probably at
industrial.
least 10 years.
Yeah, so that's why they probably feel like they've been working on it for a long time.
What were you trying to do with all these years?
This, just to
What?
rezone it to
To-
industrial.
To
LI
move that
40.
industrial zone line up so that they could not have the concerns of, they want to be able to use the asphalt plant to operate it as it needs the room to operate.
So why?
But that's not the only
but I
reason,
mean,
obviously.
if it's been so, I don't understand. It's been so many years. Why didn't you put in an elect to consider years and years ago?
I think it was going through like a series of different, not from your
Processes.
perspective, but from our perspective, they were looking at it, trying to look at it holistically. At one point, we were talking about coming up with an environmental LI-40, like a green LI-40. I mean, we went through those discussions like a decade ago. Like it's been more of trying to grapple with it holistically on this end. And you have fortunately for us been patient working through that process, but now we've gotten to a point where I guess they want to move forward.
With our 5
I mean,
properties.
Anna, you said
right?
this is
Well,
2
she
supervisors
suggested-
Yeah.
ago.
She was suggesting that the town rezones that whole area. And I figured I'd be 110 years
At one
old.
point, we were going to either hire a consultant to do a study to rezone it on our own motion. And then the town board at that time was like, why are we
Paying to do a study.
paying to do it? Like, let him apply for the
Who
zone
owns
change.
the 2
And that was where
parcels
we landed.
at the top?
It says on my GIS, Bianc Acres LLC and 66 Acres LLC.
Those are my company.
Those are you as
Oh.
well?
Why wouldn't you want to just rezone the whole thing?
I'd love to do that.
he came up with this concept plan, which included the 5 lots and the clearing and the proposed development as well, so that you could see what he wanted to do with it when you were considering the actual zone change, right? We didn't think about expanding it further.
And actually, this is my needs at the time, so I wasn't really thinking any further down, but yeah.
Does the core slice this in any way, or is it all CGA all the way up to the highway?
Let me just put that
And
there.
you don't own the junkyard though?
No.
And one other question, does this have to go before the Pine Barrens Commission?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, it does.
Thought so.
And of course, any development would go to planning.
Mhm.
Talking about the other lot up here that he owns.
It's
all the way up to the
compatible
highway.
growth
Yeah.
until sunrise, and then to the
the
north
other
it
side,
becomes the
okay.
core.
I mean, I don't see why you wouldn't just extend it all the way.
It would make sense. Another 10 years, I'll be back here.
Do you have any dialogue with the junkyard owner at all, or?
Well, I've known him since I was 15, and he's like retired. He's 85 years old now.
I mean, it would help if he was willing to
Yeah.
participate in the process.
It's gonna be weird to
zone
just
the whole
cut,
thing.
like, make it an out parcel.
And some of his stuff is like, he has his boundary lines floated with his junk.
Yeah.
I
mean,
think
just
I think
have
he's on the
this?
verge
Is this
of
a
getting
road?
ready to sell that property, and somebody's gonna
That's a
come in
dirt
and
road.
mediate and clean it up.
Yeah, cleaning it up is gonna be.
It's just a shame to leave the one parcel if we're moving towards making this entire section LI 40. Why would you keep the one
Brings more
parcel?
cars in than he sells.
CR 200.
And when you say preserve that little triangle piece, what do
Yep.
you mean, like?
That would be preserved as part of the application, so you put a conservation easement on it or something like that as part of the application process,
And
as a
this-
condition of approval,
With the planning board.
with the
in
planning
future.
board, absolutely.
And these lots right behind you are landlocked.
Which
And
ones?
Yeah, I mean, it would be nice
Would be,
if
The Clay Pit Road
this
ones?
way.
Because you can see a road goes right through here.
Yeah, yeah,
The
yeah.
two that's gonna be preserved.
Yeah, it's a
I don't
paper
know
road.
who
Yeah, it's a
owns it,
paper
or-
road.
Yeah, I'm not
I
sure.
don't think it's landlocked.
you don't think it's landlocked?
No.
Yeah, I mean,
Probably the
Can I ask,
trustees.
would you have any ability to talk to like the DOT? Have you ever about the extension of the roadway to the Sunrise interchange? I know that also, Pasilico, Dan, is that the name?
Yeah.
It's a big list, I mean.
He was also talking about that like many years ago, connecting, I don't know if that's even a real, it's in our code, like recommend opening or looking at it, cause that would alleviate all that traffic away from Old Country Road. And I
They
think
did
that-
They did a temporary one when they were doing work on Sunrise, and everyone got so excited that they were finally going to put an off ramp, and then they just didn't. No, it's just for us for construction.
Well, go on the wildfires also.
Yeah. I mean, it's really something that's definitely like we should be advocating for
Well,
with the
you've got
state.
the college, down the road, and,
Mhm.
everybody's going to that. We'll definitely take the truck traffic over the whole country.
Michael, we could look at that,
It's really
Your-
important
in
if
your
you could
task
get that
force.
interchange and
Well,
because
That
that
would
would help
make so
some of the
much sense.
traffic up in that area.
it would, but it would be more, I think, important if we thought about it as a part of this plan. If there's a way to integrate. No.
I mean, to
State
put
road.
it on,
Well-
put it on an applicant to open that is a heavy lift as
Yeah.
conditionally, but I'm saying as part of looking at all this comprehensively.
I
it
think
would
we
be
have. I think
Well.
planning wise, I
suited.
think we have the numbers of numbers of businesses and people in the area to basically say to the state, like
Yeah.
to make a case for, listen.
Especially if we change the zone to this, where we have more businesses there, that'd be easiest for the task force to go to the state and say, hey, can you help us out?
Mhm.
Put, on and off ramp for the neighbors.
I mean, it's built to have one, pretty
You can
much.
see
It's
it.
right
You can
there.
see it
Well,
there.
it was, I think, way back when, it was in the plans, when
Mhm.
Sunrise was extended. But,
Yeah.
That would just alleviate so much pressure on Old Country Road is my biggest point.
It would make it easier
for
for us,
everyone.
for housing
Yeah.
developments, for anything, to have that access to 27 there.
Yeah, but especially the large truck traffic of the sand mining or anyone just coming off Sunrise and going back
And I'm
to
sure you would
Sunrise.
prefer
and
to
not
go right
being on
out to
a local
27
road
and
at
be
all.
done and not have to go through.
Save money on
I used to
gas.
bicycle back and forth to work from Center Ridge. I had a bicycle down the road.
Madam Supervisor, on the review component that you were asking about, We only looked at this early on in terms of a formal application. They were looking at a use variance, right? And then they sort of went in this direction as a change of zone. The use variance, we didn't get very far in the process, to be quite honest. It starts off and you have to go through the SECRA. So that's where it started with ZBA. We started a coordination process. And then, I sat down with the applicant about the various environmental issues that we would need to address as part of the process. And then they looked like they were going in this direction. And likely because if the zone, and I don't know how it goes, but this could then set the stage for the zoning board then having to take action. You set the stage here, they look at this one, well then they come into this one, now we're looking
It's
at this
better
as
to
a
come to
piecemeal.
legislative.
So they maybe looked at this and said, let's look at this as possibly holistically on a macro level to see about changing the zone, for these properties as opposed to the zoning board potentially doing a use variance or considering a use variance without really looking at the larger picture of the entire area, which obviously
I think
we want to do in planning.
I think I kind of agree with Cindy that we should do the right up to the highway, do it all at one time.
Okay.
I mean, I know he likes to come back in 10 years.
Well, why? Who
Well-
owns this property up
He
here?
does.
He does,
You own not only those three, but all the way up to the highway?
yes.
But you're only asking for these three now? Or you?
Well, the five.
Because that's what they have a plan for.
Yeah, that's what we
But,
had a
I mean,
conceptual plan
It doesn't
for.
say you can't change the zoning on the other two and then come in separately to the planning department with a plan that meets
Of course,
LI
we can
40
amend
and the
our
clearing
plan and submit
restrictions
it.
and the setbacks.
You would just show the clearing
Right.
in here that
Right.
it conform.
Yeah, we'd have to.
If we
conform
add the
them.
additional properties, I would request that we have another work
Yeah,
session
He does.
with all, the report and everything compiled together.
Sure.
He owned the both lots.
So then we could
So we
have you
can
submit
submit-
a packet.
Yep.
That is, I mean, it's your right, you don't have to
Put you back on the agenda.
go for the whole
on
thing, I
the-
just think it.
On the lot,
So we can submit them
Like-
for the whole thing, sure.
this lot,
No.
this lot, you own.
So,
Yes, both.
Yeah,
But that's
What-
not what you're asking for. I mean,
No.
I'm more comfortable with the plan that you're submitting now and to possibly preserve the lot to the north near the highway. I mean, I'd like to consider that as well.
well, I mean,
It is
He
deep
doesn't
water
have
recharge
to. Yeah,
area there.
yeah, I mean, I think the issue is also you have to remember, even if you rezone it, that doesn't mean anything's gonna be approved by planning
No.
or the Pine Barrens,
But-
there's still a long way to go.
But I think the only reason why we
Mhm.
discussed the building up to the highway was because of the idea that we could have a on-off ramp.
Where you wouldn't
But
want to
that's
put
not-
5-acre houses
But
here.
that's not guaranteed,
No.
right? So
I was only suggesting that so
Call
that
Senator
the
Palumbo's office
zoning
again.
flows all the way through and it's not houses in between the highway and industrial uses.
Right.
It doesn't make sense to me to have two lots of housing,
We-
potentially high-density housing in between an industrial use and
I mean,
major highway.
I get the reasoning of making the zoning consistent, and I like that there's a preservation component in there. If you are to move up to the highway, I mean, I'd like to see more of a preservation component then.
Would you do the back lot then?
Well, look, we're already preserving 75% of the property
Yeah.
as it's
Right.
as we would
Yeah.
submit it now. So I would have to talk to Mr. Montecalvo
Yeah.
about that, because that's a really big ask
I
to
mean,
ask for
or you
more
could
than
just-
75% of the
not that
property
you put-
preserved.
There's also purchase
You didn't put
potential.
anything in yet, but when you do, you could always just,
You could also just get it
keep it
rezoned
what
to
you
LI
did.
40 and
Let's
sell the
keep
lot
it
as is, and then
tight.
somebody else come in
Exactly.
with a plan that meets all of the setback requirements and the Pine Barrens, requirements for what they can do with that property under LI 40. To me, I'm not looking at giving, taking, getting more preserved, less preserved. I'm looking at holistically this whole map. To me, it does not make sense to have light industrial back up to housing, back up to highway.
Do it all
Like,
at
to
one
me, it
time.
makes more sense to do the whole thing light industrial. And we do have a very big need for special trade contractors in this town.
That's why it's important to do LI
Yeah.
40, because they're not permitted in
LI
CR
200.
LI 200,
And
which is.
then it'd be, if we do that, you could show the state the need for the ramps. Almost one goes hand in hand.
Because basically, what I would see is that small contractors in these buildings, these plumbers, electricians, pool maintenance people, or whatever, and they would much rather jump on the Sunrise Highway than have to transverse through
Through West Hampton.
Well, that would be an interesting traffic study to see what would happen in this hamlet if we did in fact open up this interchange, to the Sunrise Highway. I mean, we're thinking the traffic will just go out, but there's a good chance that a significant amount of traffic will come in. And that's something that we, really should add to this conversation, since we're discussing it now. I like this application as you have it in front of us. I'd like to preserve the lot to the north. And if you are a willing seller, of course, we are interested in making you whole in that regard. But, that's a conversation for another time.
There was a plan at one time to make the southern portion of Spianka Ray Road a dead end in cul-de-sac.
That's
And then they were gonna reroute it over to Phillips Avenue, which kind of makes sense, because eventually at Phillips Avenue, there's gonna be a light. There's gonna have to be the traffic going from the railroad and all that.
You have that.
It shows that here, potential realignment.
Thank you.
Right, that's right, that was in that study.
Yep.
Yeah. Which probably makes sense, because there is a residential component to the southern end of Spianka Ray Road.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
I know you weren't interested.
Well, it's a small,
Well, when these
Part
things
three
come in, we
evaluation.
do get the opportunity to look back and say, okay, what were the objectives here? And what makes the most sense? And what will make the most sense for the needs of,
You have to look at the whole picture.
so in that regard, we want to come back in September for, sometime mid-September for a second work session? Is that what I'm?
I think that would be a good
hearing
idea,
there?
yeah.
Okay. And then in the meantime,
We'll submit.
Submit and we'll give you
And
the
you'll have the
packet and the report,
Okay.
all that.
And if anyone wants to take a tour or whatever, I'm more than welcome to.
I think that, would you like to take a tour?
Yeah.
Maybe I'll come up with Madam Supervisor. Bring your boots.
Thank you,
Okay.
Mr. Montecalvo.
Thank you so much
Thank
for the
you.
opportunity to
Thank you.
address the board and for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for doing this. It's a great need.
Thanks, Janet.
You're welcome, thank you for coming.
Thank you. Thanks. Hello.
Hi,
Good
good morning. So
morning.
next up is town social media policy issues. John Ortiz, Deputy Supervisor, and Catherine Garvin, Assistant Town Attorney.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you.
So we are here to, basically, the town doesn't have a social media policy right now. And I spoke with Christine Scalera about it because she had worked on it a couple years ago with former town board member Julie Lofstead. And then the pandemic happened and, we never really wrapped our arms around it. And as far as I can tell, nothing has been adopted. But in the meantime, I had told the supervisor and our former deputy supervisor when I had come back from the Association of Towns that they did a little class on social media and they were talking about, First Amendment rights and possible litigation and possible exposure. And one of the speakers, who's an attorney, had made the recommendation to disable all the comments on social media because there's just a lot of problems that you could have with it. And so I had mentioned that to Maria and I had mentioned that to Frank in passing, and we never really took any action. And then it came up again recently. I remember I had a conversation with Colleen once because she was worried about something that had been posted with the First Amendment guy who comes around with a videotape. And I was like, oh my gosh, we need to really talk about this. And then it occurred to me that it was bigger than just disabling them, that we had to have a conversation because we don't have a social media policy.
There's drafts of that floating
There
around,
are drafts,
right?
and that's what I'm saying. Christine had worked on that previously, which is great, because when you have a draft, you don't have to recreate the wheel. John has done a lot of research on it. He has a lot of different samples from other places, and so we can work on the policy. Christine had told me that the PD actually has a policy, which is great, because we can borrow some language from that. But what I really wanted to talk to you about is, are you okay with disabling the comments on Instagram and Facebook? And again, my recommendation is to do it because it's just easier, because if you get into First Amendment speech, it's just a slippery slope. And I know this town board particularly is all about transparency, and you like to welcome public comments, and we're one of the few towns, I also learned at the Association of Towns, we're one of the few towns that still allows for the Zooming. A lot of towns have abandoned that now that the pandemic is over. And for transparency purposes and because of the nature of our constituents, we kept it. And so I understand the need for transparency. I understand you like public comments. Again, my recommendation is to disable them. And I had mentioned to Councilwoman McNamara, I know you guys all have your own pages. I would recommend disabling them, but obviously the town board, I don't recommend the town board tell our employees or each other how to manage their own accounts.
Yeah.
But that's kind of what the purpose of this is to get your temperature for it, and that way we can tweak a policy based on what you think.
I wouldn't want an
Sorry,
employee.
if I can just jump in, separate and apart from saying or recommending on council's advice about disabling the account for the relative ease
The
of
comments.
it. The comments, rather, for the relative ease of it, that it's easier to, rather than having someone designated to monitor them, it's easier to disable them.
Right.
The purpose of disabling them, separate and apart from the ease of not having someone to monitor them, is premised upon what? If you could drill down a bit on that.
Oh, well, just the legality of it, because there are, the First Amendment protects almost all speech, and, there's a list of things that comments that we could take down, and there are, insightful comments, anything that discriminates based on race, gender, all of those kind of things. But again, it's a slippery slope. Most comments are appropriate. I mean, not appropriate. Most comments are protected. So that was kind of my point. What you and I might think, oh, we should disable, we should hide that comment or delete that comment, could really run afoul of the First Amendment.
It becomes very discretionary upon the person who you put in charge of viewing it. So the idea is that if you're going to allow it, you need to allow all of them pretty much, unless something is like outrageously so obviously offensive that no one in their right mind would have it up there, but even that becomes discretionary. Or just don't allow anyone. And that seems to be, from a legal perspective, a more conservative way to go.
Yes, and it's definitely a conservative way to go. Again, Councilwoman McNamara had told me there are other towns that do allow the comments. And I did see that, and I kind of was like, wow, this is kind of surprising to me. And then I tried to kind of find the social media policies that those towns have, which was very difficult. I don't know if, they kind of do it and they don't publish it. But the ones that I did find, for the list of things that they say that they might strike down, I think that they're questionable. Because like I said, the First Amendment protects all sorts of speech.
There are features, and one of the things that I'm just concerned about is if we do disable comments, which I see the value in, precisely in the 21st century when we're dealing with possible phishing scams and bots that might post things that might actually entice somebody to click it, and it could actually present some problems.
That's true too. Yeah.
And a liability to the town, quite frankly, if we have the option to disable comments. But that said, we would be able to at least keep at least a message. I think that I've seen our town Facebook page have I've seen disabled posts, but I've also seen what looks to be at least a messaging section that somebody can message the town if they had a question.
Sure.
So
if
we post it like let's say an event or something or a news flash, and somebody has a question about that, they can at least engage the town so that they can get the constituent service, because I believe CRC oversees the town Facebook page.
Yes.
So they would still be able to message the town so that they are getting services and they are able to issue a comment.
Yes, and they feel like they've been heard if they just had something like, oh, I tried to sign up and the link doesn't work or something like that.
Okay.
I went through the Facebook pages of every town on Long Island, and not one of them disabled comments.
I don't think that's true.
I can give you the list, and you can look at their Facebook pages yourself.
Most of, I mean, Cindy is right. I looked at some of them.
They all allow commenting.
But some of them also, because I did a Google search for just related to this, and there was a couple articles. I think Southold came up because Southold had gone through this a couple of years ago, and they were concerned about disabling comments and allowing comments. And then I went to their Facebook page, and they only have like dates. Like then like if they allow the comments, it seems like they can be more conservative with the information they're sharing. Like, oh, we have a planning board meeting, we have a town board meting, whereas
It's more informational. It's not like provoking comments.
Brookhaven has their comments disabled. I have it right
But
here.
either way,
But the Association of Towns recommended that we disable it.
The speaker did,
And you're recommending it.
Well-
because I don't want to have an employee be the one to, that's a lot of responsibility to decide what should come down, what shouldn't, and they're violating someone's free speech rights inappropriately. I mean, why expose ourselves to that? And most of the posts, I think, are just informational.
Yes, and that's the thing. Like, so on the one hand, you want to be like, well, if we're only posting informational things, what kind of comments could we get, right? I mean, and that's where I get worried, because it's like
That's the scary
So
part.
what generally happens is people take our posts, repost them on personal pages, and then they get comments there.
They could.
Which is
fine.
entirely
We
fine.
can't-
It's on a different page.
Yeah.
So the conversations will be had, in those areas, but it's going to be off of our site if we adopt this policy.
Well, then we have to work on a policy. Yes.
Right. If we adopt
But then
such a
part and
policy.
parcel of the policy is, as the town and the town board governing the town, do you want to provide a platform to provide information and/or a forum for let's everybody discuss this post, or eat at Joe's, or use my landscaping company, or I never liked you or him or her.
Yeah, who needs that? I mean,
Well-
a lot of posts are about job openings and positions that are available
Right.
to be filled. It's a way to get information out there, but
It's
a lot
not
of people will
discussion
take
forum.
advantage of that and just put
Have we
anything on
had
there.
people take advantage of it? You're right. I agree with that. I'm wondering in the past, have we had a problem with people being inappropriate, in quotes, that we've had to look at it and say, oh my goodness, this is just bad, and then take it down. I don't.
Well, yeah, I think
Of
there
late,
was.
it hasn't been so much political, and it's been more so tied to traffic.
Mhm.
So,
Well, right, it's a
there's
flashpoint,
that. I
and,
mean, it is a
Right.
flashpoint.
And like some other people post things, like board members post things about it, which some of it's not really that good.
If it's on an individual
Yeah.
board member's page, do what you want, but
Yeah.
that's
But it's such a-
that's up to you.
Yeah, but it
That's
sets a-
on each of you, not on the town.
No, but if the board members don't do that, it sets an example for people to try not to do it. But if the board members do it, criticizing other board members, that's not the right thing to do.
But
Katie,
again,
did you also
that's
discuss-
for the individual board member.
Did you all discuss already, I just was, and the lady didn't,
That's
other
example.
boards or other divisions having their own pages
Yeah,
and
no, we-
stuff
Yeah.
too?
We
Yeah,
haven't
and
gotten to that yet.
That,
Okay.
that would be part and parcel of
Yeah.
the social media policy. Anyone who is a town employee or maintains, or part of the town, who maintains their own Facebook page or whatever, Parks and Rec, the PD, whatever, would be subject to this.
Yeah,
Well,
I
the PD
had-
is separate, but
But yeah, I had no idea. Like a lot of our division or departments have their own pages. The Youth Bureau,
Right,
Parks and Rec, which again is amazing because there's a population of people that really need that information, and it's right in time. Or even if they had like the Battle of the Bands and it's raining, it's much easier to go to Facebook and see, oh, the event's been canceled or postponed,
Yeah.
or the concert's in the park. But
Most
I
of the
would.
times when I see the comments that are questionable,
Yeah.
it's not on the town government site.
Right.
It's when those posts gets posted to community pages,
Right.
and then
They
the
get
comments
shared.
start. And you have
Which
nothing to
is-
do with that.
Absolutely.
Which is great.
Absolutely. And that's what I'm saying. It'd be nice to just get ahead of this before it does go awry. And maybe it never will, but I do remember, like I said, specifically Colleen had asked me about that First Amendment video. Somebody was posting that and we were like, oh, this isn't the forum for that. I mean, even though he has the right to, because it's First Amendment, it's like maybe we don't want that shared in the comments of our pages.
Yeah.
And it's, like I said, I think there are very few things that you actually can hide or delete based on the First Amendment.
If I can jump in there for a second, since this is, I don't know necessarily problematic, but a point of reference, nothing is deleted. It is taken down, it is either hidden or filtered out, but nothing is
Now,
deleted.
you mean.
No, not now, for all time. Nothing is deleted. It is taken down.
No, I mean currently, because we
From
accept
Facebook,
comments.
once it's on there, it's there
Once it's on
forever.
there, it's on there forever, just like all of our emails and everything that exists. But it's not deleted, it is taken down and set aside, it is not visible. It's still accessible, but it's not deleted.
But if we
To
disable
IT,
it,
not
it won't
to-
even be
Correct.
accessible anymore because it won't be able to be made.
Right.
That's
Well, the record will be there, but
Yeah,
nothing
the
will
record.
ever, we'll go to try to comment and you can't.
right.
Right.
But then we don't have. I'm just saying for record retention purposes and FOIL, we will then not have that comment
Correct.
to put over because they were not able to
Because they're
make
disabled.
it. Right. That's it. So
Right.
okay.
Another aspect of this, there may be a person who posts on our Facebook page attacking a particular employee, which is completely inappropriate in my opinion. And depending on what they say, we could be, I believe we have a duty to, protect our
Yeah.
employees. They're doing their jobs and, but for whatever reason, that could happen. And, so whoever we assign, if we keep the comments up, whoever we assign would need a strict protocol of what can and cannot be deleted. And that's the
But it's
questionable area that
discretionary.
you're talking about earlier, which kind of gets us into like, okay, who makes that call? And it's an important call.
Yes.
But
Okay.
we're not a platform.
Right.
We're using a commercial platform to post information. A platform is in the business to create a community, to create back and forth. We're not in that business.
I
We're
think
in the
part
business
of the-
only
Just
to
getting out
provide
information.
information.
Part of the policy should be, if you have questions, call, this phone number,
Right.
our phone number,
That's
or,
what- yeah, that's what
have an
we said.
email.
You could
so people
message
can
the post.
ask questions that is,
Yeah.
that is staffed and they get their answers, because I think generally that's what people are going to say, what time is the meeting? It was moved, or, that sort of thing. So we want to service that
Yes.
constituent.
We also have to then
have a
really look at the
policy.
policy of what is posted, because,
Mhm.
for
I'm sorry?
example, we also then have to look at the policy of what is posted, when it's posted. Just for an example, over the weekend, a post went up, and I would assume it's like an auto post that just goes up every so
the
often,
trustees.
that the trustees were moving to Hampton Bays in December,
Those posts.
and it was from last year.
Yeah, they moved.
So
it.
I commented on the post like,
Right.
no, they have moved.
Yeah, it's not new.
And people were asking questions, and I'm
Yeah.
like, no, this is not happening. It happened.
That was a
Yeah.
technical error.
Yeah, but we do have to
But
get
there's
our arms
also
around
been
it,
there's
yeah.
also been issues where our staff has posted on community pages they've shared community pages on our government site, which can never happen.
Right.
Because I ended up having to have a police conference because
Yeah, like maybe a community group reaches out and says, hey, put this on the
Can't.
town's website. No, totally. I mean, that's,
And that'll be in the policy.
yes.
Right.
But,
Yeah,
but
it's
it,
not
but
good.
even more importantly, we do have to, that's why I'm saying we gotta get our arms around this
Yeah.
because it's a great tool, but
whatever we do, it just has to be across the board. And it
Yes.
just
Yes.
can't be, because right now there's commenting turned off on some posts that could be controversial, but not all posts. So I just, that's not a good look.
no, absolutely not.
It's an
And
all or
that's,
nothing
that
Well,
was why,
while we're reviewing,
It's an all or nothing proposition.
while we're reviewing the policy, shouldn't, can we just shut off the comments?
That- you can
Honestly,
just
so
say that.
When I started the beginning of July, and when I was able finally to sit with Colleen and Deborah in the CRC and discuss what they do and don't do, whatever like this, when they first started, we look at this and then we go over the comments, and if some of them are inappropriate, whatever, we take it down. And as soon as I heard that, I'm not here as an attorney. There's still the attorney that lives within, and I heard that, and I'm like, we don't monitor anything. Not delete, disable all commentary. And then that's when we started talking more and more, and then we eventually got to where we are today. So was it my direction to them, disable everything? We are not in the let's foster a commentary phase or have a pool.
Comments
or
are
a-
still on.
And we do offer a public
comments
comment.
Comments are always on. However, whenever we send out something from the website to our feed, to Facebook, to Instagram and Twitter, X, whatever is going to call it these days, we have to then go to Facebook in order to make that accessible for commentary to a specific group, and then not allow anyone in that specific group. Katie the other day posted something to Facebook
fun.
on one of our pages, fun. And I said, I thought we disabled all of the comments. Well, we have to individually go and toggle.
There,
Each post.
there should
for
be a
each-
se-
What?
for-
No,
there-
Yes.
there should be a setting
Keywords.
though.
Yeah.
There should be a setting.
There should be, but apparently there isn't.
Are you sure?
Are you telling
what?
me, what are you
We're gonna
saying?
find out.
Because
Two
I
things.
commented on
Two
that trustee post.
Yes.
It should be easier.
Trustees is
Yeah.
separate.
We need
No,
a
it was
teenager.
our post.
It was on our.
Well, why
page.
don't you ask the Southampton Press? They turned off the comments on their.
Not on 2017, not on the Facebook.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, so the mechanics of this, we'll drill down. Instagram, apparently, I'm told, is you can't turn off the comments. We have little traffic on Instagram. Twitter, we have little traffic on
I don't see the need for an
on
Instagram
that
account.
platform. But you also can't temper the posts in the manner in which you can, to a certain extent, on Facebook. So I'll drill down with CRC as to all of those, the
I
mechanics
want
of
to just
that.
say one thing. In West Hampton Beach Village, I was, nobody was really posting anything except me. But we had the feature. You can't, people could write it in, but it wouldn't show.
Right.
So I don't understand. This sounds like the opposite. You're saying it does show until someone removes it.
It is,
That's the current configuration.
that's the current.
I think you can.
There is a
set it
setting.
so that your
I think.
I will.
comments
I'm
don't
not
go
on-
out.
Yeah.
I know, that's what I
I
said,
just-
I was
I'm
like,
not, I don't do
get our
this.
teenagers in here.
But I guess I'm looking at this from
Facebook?
a perspective of the integrity of our cybersecurity. We know that the county last year or the year before endured a cyber attack. Obviously, I don't think that was necessarily related to social media itself, but I think given the threat that many municipalities face due to cybersecurity threats, I think that there is definitely a need to disable comments, especially as we are also dealing with heightened political tensions in this country. I think that there is definitely a benefit to looking at the importance of disabling just across the board, but making sure that we're allowing people to write in to the CRC. There is a section that you are able to just send a message to if you have a question.
Yeah, or whoever's maintaining that site,
And-
'cause like I said.
In
Parks
addition
and
to
Rec
that,
doesn't have one.
we still have public comment at all of our meetings. We all have email addresses, and of course, our meetings are over Zoom as well. So, we still offer the platform for people to speak to us in public if they want.
So what I'm hoping you're saying is that I can send out an email to everybody who's maintaining any kind of Facebook pages or Instagram pages for the town, on the town's behalf, not on personal behalf. I'll tell them that they have to disable comments, whether it's on Instagram, Facebook, we
you
can
said
try
you
to
can't.
find
You
out.
can on Instagram.
I think you can too, but we'll
I
find
think
out.
you can too.
We'll find out. Like, I Googled it. I mean, I think you can, but we'll find out.
You can.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, we should,
Okay.
if we have an account, the comment should be disabled, and then we'll start putting together a comprehensive policy.
I have a question now.
Thank
So for myself, for Cindy, for Tommy John, who have council pages representing in our town official capacity, do we have to then conform to that, or is that specifically just for the?
I think it's just for, I think you guys can
I-
have, you guys
Town.
can
Okay.
proceed
But I-
however you,
Well,
go, Chrissy. go
Yeah,
ahead.
no, I would just say, because we go through this with the police department, like even if you're tying yourself to the town,
Yeah.
you just have to be a little bit cautious.
Right.
That's all, because you are representing.
Because I know you can't, for instance, on your official page, like if you have your official town
You
page, you
can't
can't.
unfollow or block people.
Well, no, you can't. There's ethics behind having an official town page. I think. I
Yeah,
believe
That's what
that-
I'm probably more.
like
concerned
elections
about.
ethics. Like you can't campaign. For instance, I wouldn't be able on my official page to like send out a fundraising thing for my campaign. Like that would have to be a separate page.
On your,
So
you mean
this
like
is-
your official page as opposed to just Mike ISLE.
Right.
Constituent and.
Right. Right. Correct.
It's a separate town page. It's a
Yeah.
town official page. Then the same rules would apply.
Would apply.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, if it's your own campaign page, that's
a separate.
on you.
Right. Correct.
But
But if I'm
if
council
you're-
member Michael Iacilli, town board
yeah,
member.
that's you need
I
to
mean,
be.
But
But it's not the
Are
town
you tied
page.
to the town page?
It's not the
No,
town
not
page.
tied to
the town
That's what I just said.
That's what
My
my
own
saying
talking
page
about
is
town
tied to the
pages.
town.
We're
Yeah,
talking about
if it's
pages
tied
tied
to
to
the
the town.
But,
My own page, but when
I'm
I'm
not-
going up for re-election, I post stuff on my.
But that's your campaign page.
Yeah.
That's separate.
Yeah, but any page what the elected official have they should show a good example of what to do and what not to do. I feel.
Sure, but again, also if it's your own personal one, you do
Yeah.
have, I mean, we all campaign on things that are important to us, right? So it's like, even if you propose something and everybody voted it down, you'd still be like, this is still important to me, and
It
that's,
is.
but
Yeah.
that's okay.
You post whatever you should post. You don't post anything you wouldn't want to show your mother.
I think that's what I tell my daughter,
That's
for
what I
sure. That's why she has a Finsta page.
Right. Exactly. They have hidden pages that we don't know about.
Okay.
All right.
So
Well, thank you both
that's
for
what we're gonna
digging
work on.
in on
Thank you.
this.
Thanks for
It's
doing
much
that.
appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, John,
Enjoy your day.
got a deputy supervisor question for you.
Oh,
In this
Thanks,
I
Katie.
was so close.
arena.
Yes, this is for our next thing on updates. Any update on the Bel Air?
Don't have a date yet.
Don't have a date.
The PO for $243,000 to pay the company to take it down was signed last week. I don't have a date yet.
Okay, but as soon as you get the date,
the folks
you'll let
are
us know.
said I will have more than a couple days' notice as to when that date.
Thank you.
Good.
That's my update. Thanks, John.
Thank you. Updates on the other inquiries for the others?
Yeah, for the West Hampton.
Forthcoming.
We're talking about the architect start the drawing the West Hampton Senior and Rec Center. Very
Oh,
close.
thank you. We already did the resolution, right, appointing the,
Yes.
authorizing.
Yes.
You were holding that.
Yeah.
Oh my God,
We
I thought
just-
we did that already.
We're just, he's getting a date when they're gonna actually
Is Sean
talk to
here?
us about what we want.
He is? You want to tell him that we're ready? Alex will go. Alex is going to go get him.
Dennis, can you turn this fan on? It's getting quite warm up here. Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it was on. I
think
hear
it's the
something.
black
I hear it going. Oh,
No,
that fan.
that
The remote.
Oh. Never even noticed that.
Maybe you have to go up there and start swinging it. Get it going.
It looks like a wind turbine.
Hello. Brian? Up here.
Hey, Sean.
Hi, so our next topic is a proposed code change regarding political signs. And with us is Sean Cambridge, Assistant Town Attorney. And we're expecting Ryan Murphy, Town Code Compliance Administrator,
Well,
but
while we're waiting for
Is
Ryan,
he-
I can just tell you the basis behind this
Well,
is very
if I
simple.
could, everyone, I would like to start this off. I am currently a candidate for New York State Assembly, and I am in an active campaign. So for that reason, I'm recusing.
Understood.
Thank you.
Yep.
The reason that I brought this forward was because right now there is a huge difference between how political signs are handled in the unincorporated versus the incorporated areas of the town. During election season, you just need to drive through and you can see that basically once you hit a village line, there is no plethora of signs in every public right of way, they're on, I believe signs belong with supporters. And, it really bothers me when you go through the unincorporated areas of the towns and you see five corners, you see the corner of David White's and Seven Ponds. You see, areas in Hampton Bays that are just trashed with signs. The corner of Noyak Road where the big, triangle is. It's just sign upon sign upon sign upon sign. And it's really not fair to the people that don't live in villages because the villages have already passed this and they've already said signs belong with supporters, keep it on your property, that's where it belongs. And I think we tried to be as least restrictive as possible, but to still get it to where it's respectable. And with that, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay. So political speech is First Amendment protected speech. It's one of the most important areas. And if a government is to regulate, you need a narrowly tailored way to do that in a way that is not restrictive. So this draft has been kicking around for a couple of years. At one point it was brought forward and the board at that point elected not to move forward with it. There are two communities in particular that have raised the issue that I'm aware of, Bridgehampton and Hampton Bays, because apparently they are just inundated with signs.
hang on one second. So Ryan's here. Why don't you come on up and join us too? Thanks, Ryan. We got started early.
Hey, Ryan. Hello. Thanks for coming.
Sean was just giving us a summary of
And
political signs.
And just to part of your point, this is not what was proposed when it was not brought forward, but we did further restrict things on commercial properties. We've taken that out. We've made it as basic as we can.
Made this as bare bones as possible. A simple time, manner, place type restriction is what we were shooting for on this. So this has been broken into several categories. I'll go through them quickly, and then Ryan can talk about the need for his departments and how they can handle these things. So first, the intention here is to allow political signs to be displayed for a 90-day period with removal 14 days following an election. Those numbers were simply chosen. They, could be changed. That's up to you. This is a draft, though, in work session, so changes are always welcome to draft legislation. That, is something we can work around.
90 days seems like a long time before an election.
Sure, absolutely.
And the 14 days, just to comment while you go through this, is consistent with, I would suggest not changing the 14 days following, because that's the qualification for obsolete signs now, is any sign 14 days after an event or a sale or whatever it is, like that, anything that's allowed right now, 14 days following the termination of that event or whatever it is determined to be an obsolete sign. So if we change that, it would be inconsistent with what otherwise is determined to be an obsolete sign. So on the front end, if there was flexibility, that's fine. I would say on the back end, the 14 days, we should try and stay consistent with that, just to be consistent with the obsolete sign determination.
So our first category is residential property. This is your home. This is, a sign on your front lawn. And what we've done is drafted a size restriction of 32 square feet, which is pretty generous. It's a pretty large sign.
It's a 4x8.
What size is that?
The 4x8, the biggest sign you can get
4x8.
made by the.
For a 104-day period, with the intention of being 90 days before an election and 14 days after. I'll use like the Green Party for an example. You don't mind the legalize it man sign up during an election cycle, but you don't want to look at that when you're having your family over for Christmas.
Can I interrupt you?
Sure.
Can we change the 90 days to 60 days?
You can do whatever you'd like. This is a work session, so all these numbers are flexible.
My view is like 60 days.
But in the past, there were complaints about just signs remaining up indefinitely. In cases where people had covered whole fences, sides of their homes, sides of garages, garage doors, and then you have this sign that is 6 years old and is all weathered, and it just becomes an obstruction in the neighborhood and becomes an eyesore for everybody.
So would
that's
that
what the
104
intention is
become
there.
74 if you change it to 60?
Yes.
Yeah, we could do that, no problem. Our next category are hazards. We don't want people putting signs where we would not allow structures. So corner clearance issues for fences, hedges, that type of thing. DOT is very specific on what's allowed and what's not allowed on the side of roadways. We want to have everybody abide by those standards. We don't want to create a car accident based on somebody's sign being where it shouldn't be.
Right, and obstructions to pull off areas and stuff like that too. You don't want somebody that's got an emergency with their vehicle to not be able to get to the shoulder because now there's like signs impeding the right of way and things
Now
like
they're
that.
changing a flat in the roadway or something.
Let me ask you a question. 'Cause
Sure.
People they want to know that says, all right, sir, on my property, my house, I have roughly 9 feet right away.
We're
10
getting
feet.
there.
Okay.
That's 2 down.
Okay.
The next category is town property, and specifically CPF properties have been inundated with signs. Some town buildings not as prevalent. Usually, most people do not go and stick it up on the lawn of a town building, but CPF properties very often. Things like highway yards, parks department yards, things like that. People just go ahead and put their signs
I can
up.
just use as an example, the triangle at David White's Lane is a CPF property, and that not only does that corner get plastered with signs, that's a CPF property. It was purchased for a scenic easement, so not only are you blocking the reason why you purchased that CPF property, so for agriculture as well, but not only are you blocking the reason for having that, but that's a heavily traveled intersection, and it becomes at times a danger to people that are traversing the roadway there. So that would be covered under 2 of these.
So you're saying there's nothing in the code right now that prohibits
No,
signs
nothing.
on town property?
No.
Well, there
because
is.
there
Not
is,
the
but they
political
put it
signs.
on the right of way at the town property.
There's just an exception, and the exception is political signs.
Right.
Yeah.
Other signs for sure.
Every
didn't
other
think
every village in the town has said no to that. Like, you
But I
can't do
didn't even think you were allowed to like have it be content based. Like if you have to read what the sign is, that's content based. So it's not. You know, all signs should be subject to these same
In our-
rules. Nothing in the right of way. Nothing
Right.
in the.
Political signs were simply listed as an exception.
exempt.
So all other signs were prohibited except for
Political signs are exempt from our code.
this would make this consistent with the rest of our code.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Though. I mean, it should be.
You know, if the
You
town
shouldn't
board-
be able to distinguish. I think that's the law.
Well, you
can't
also don't
distinguish
wanna-
a sign, right,
Right.
from another
Right.
sign.
It's going to be content neutral regulation.
So-
And you also don't want
Yeah,
to necessarily look like, as a municipality, we're
Right, we don't want to be
advocating
endorsing
for
things
one,
either.
you know, in a political sense, for political signage, that if there was only like one candidate sign on a property and another candidate didn't take advantage of it, you don't want it to look like that agency or that building or whatever is endorsing one candidate over another
You just have to be
inappropriately
consistent.
too, so.
You have to be consistent.
Yes.
The removal.
Oh, yes, yeah.
So basically, what's gonna happen is say, if, to see if like a town-owned property or a trustee-owned property or a fire department-owned property or Amazon property, if it's having work done on it, that contractor can't have a 4x8 sign on that property if he's doing work on the property.
Right, they already should have that.
Yeah.
Based on our rules.
Okay.
So, you know, this would enable, you know, day to day, what this looks like is code enforcement, enforcement officers of the town can go and grab these signs that are placed. No notice given, simply take them and destroy them or return them to the owner. I know they usually do try to return them.
I know Southampton Village keeps them at their highway barn, and you can go pick them up if they have them there.
Right. And so our next category is town rights of way. Same kind of thing. So people are not supposed to have anything obstructing the right of way. This was listed as an exemption, so people were sticking up political signs and other signs in some instances in the right of way. The other signs are promptly removed by our code enforcement division and TLC crew. The political signs are not. You know, if you wanted a compromise position on this, I would suggest you'd have to do a permitting program that would be content neutral and allow specific right-of-ways to be placarded, but then you get into all sorts of other issues about, you know, which areas are acceptable and which neighborhoods are acceptable, and I personally don't like the optics of it.
Like the county went through the last election cycle, they went through and they just cleared the county roads of signs.
Right, so this is what we're proposing
So
here.
it's, does the town right of way also include the part of someone's front lawn?
So yes, it does.
Yeah.
So you'd have to move the sign back to your own property that's
To the
outside of
edge.
the right-of-way.
Which we've had, you know, enforcement issues with signs in the past where we have told people, you know,
Move it back.
if you move it back 8 or 9 feet, whatever it is, depending on the property and depending on where the right-of-way limitations are, it's on your property at that point. It's fine. It's out of the right-of-way.
Yeah, so you might get someone like who has 9 feet or 10 feet or 6 feet because the road's cut back into it and they have a hedge there and they own where the hedge is. Instead of having a sign this way, they might decide to have a long skinny sign going up in the air 4 feet or 6 feet with the person's campaign or the yard sale sign on it.
And in all honesty, I don't envision the highway department going through and taking signs off of people's front yards. I envision this more like, you know, on a public roadway where they're cutting the grass, or you know what I mean, like in front of a.
Yeah, where we've seen this the most is where it's the most glaring is where signs are ahead of utility poles and road controls. So you're obstructing a stop sign now or a speed limit sign or something to that effect.
Sometimes
But-
people have a hedge right up against
Yeah.
the edge of their property. Then there's the sidewalk, then the strip of grass, then the
Right.
curb. So they think they can, you know, put the sign there. I mean,
Right.
I know technically it's a right of way.
We do make people remove hedges from the town right away. Actually, we have quite a bit of litigation about that. We routinely make people move drip lines, hedges, driveway aprons, all sorts of things like that. Bird baths,
Rocks. I had them on my rocks.
right?
But I don't. Again, I
If
don't
they
envision
complain.
code enforcement going out with tape measures, taking signs off of people's lawns, unless you know, there's a proliferation or it's causing a net hazard and it's.
The
But-
easiest marker for just like
Telephone
is where the utility pole is, or where there's a street sign. You know, if there's a speed limit sign, if there's a street sign, if there's a caution sign, if there's a utility pole, between that utility pole and the roadway is where is generally, without a further determination and an actual measurement, that's what we view as the easiest demarcation for the right-of-way area. So if there's something between that and the edge of the roadway, which then goes back to like what I had mentioned about, you know, safe pull-off areas, God forbid there's a roadway emergency and things like that. You don't want things that people are going to drive over in that space. If it's behind the phone pole, behind the street sign, between that and the front of the house, it's generally an area that's not problematic.
Right, so day to day, this really looks
But
like
you
signs
have to-
moving back.
To go back to what Cindy was saying about, she doesn't think it's, you know, but you have to lay it out because even in a regular neighborhood, you're gonna have that one person who's gonna complain about the sign in front of my house.
Sure.
That he doesn't like me or whatever, or he doesn't like whoever I put up. Even if I have it close up to my head, so this is why I'm bringing it up. And he's gonna call you and make you do something, you know, what, hey, go take that sign down because it's in the books. And it's gonna make code enforcement do a lot because every neighborhood has a Karen.
And at the moment, to that point, Bill, you know, many civic members are concerned that we're not enforcing the existing sign codes that are on the books with respect to whether they're companies posting stuff on, you know, poles or obstructing vision. Maybe sometimes they're advertising for an event. And of course, we want to make sure that we're, you know, allowing for people to do that. But at the same time, and you know, Councilwoman McNamara and I talked about this approximately 4 months ago, and I supported this. But I'm worried a little bit only because of my conversations with, for instance, the Bridgehampton Civic. They had some real serious concerns about signs and not our town not having the ability to enforce the sign code. And when I mentioned that, you know, we're looking at this as sort of trying to alleviate some of these concerns, because I do think that this is actually a really good step toward reducing debris, especially on our CPF properties that, you know, we've been seeing as being an increasing concern. But they, you know, when I mentioned we're looking at reducing or modifying the laws with respect to political signs, they seemed not fazed. They want the code as it exists to be enforced. They see the, you know, businesses putting out signs as more of a problem because they're putting them out throughout, you know, the whole entire year or a longer period of time than an election, for instance.
Power washing signs.
And hopefully it was brought up in that meeting that you're aware of the fact that we are addressing that and we do enforce it. And sometimes, unfortunately, we'll pull a sign on Friday, you know, when I have people on at 11:30 at night, and by Saturday morning, that business has replaced a new sign, and we've thrown ours in the garbage. They didn't take that one and put it back out. They've replaced it. So we do, and Bridgehampton is an area where in the almost 5 years now that I've been here, I know that the Bridgehampton CAC and the civic groups out there, you know, there is a high degree of sensitivity towards the signage in the area, and they do tend to deal with more signs being tried to people trying to put up more signs in the area. We're constantly pulling them and addressing it and issuing violations.
And I mentioned the SOS system.
It's kind of an ongoing battle.
And I mentioned the SOS system as a way to try to, you know, mitigate the constant coming back and forth. But I was also acute into the fact that there is ongoing tinkering with the sign code. Yes?
Years ago.
No, this is this is a section of the code that doesn't currently exist. We have nothing in our code like the supervisor had said that addresses political signs. Right now, they're exempt from our code.
This
is
has been
a
a
new
draft,
section of
but
code.
it's never.
But I'm talking about the sign code in its totality.
So in sign code in its totality, yes. I mean, I have had conversations with Sean and Ryan. I have had meetings with the chamber in Hampton Bays. I have had conversations with Janice Shearer. What we are looking to do is, in the sign code in its entirety, as it relates to business signs, because that seems to be a big problem in our downtowns.
Right.
There have been a ton of complaints about Hampton Bays in particular. So what we are looking to do is, rather than go out and have code enforcement simply blanket every business in Hampton Bays with a notice of violation, what we are looking to do is, Ryan, after Labor Day, after these businesses get through the season, because I don't want to infringe on these people while they're trying to make their living. After the season's over, after Labor Day, Ryan will have code enforcement go out. They will have a checklist of basically all they're there for is signage. They will give the business owners not a notice of violation, simply a sheet that says you're out of compliance with their sign codes for the following reasons. We will then give them an opportunity to either come into compliance, or what I envision doing, we were going to just do a blanket meeting, but what I envision as more, and after I got this after talking to Janice Scherer, as more productive is having like we did at St. Rosalie's for Tax Grievance Day, where the business owners can come in, we can sit, we can have a panel, Janice, Sean, Ryan, myself, whoever, we can maybe get somebody from the ARB, and we could have the business owners, give them an opportunity to come in and say, listen, this is unrealistic for me. I have to be able to advertise my business, or I have this sign for this reason.
Okay.
And so that we will then have a listing of issues that they have, maybe tweaks to the code we can make to be a little less restrictive, but get things going in the right direction. And we also have issues in our code, which I talked to Janice about yesterday, where our sign code for businesses isn't even really in sync with our dark skies code, because it's still calling for wattage and white lights, which is not.
So what you're working on with Sean and Ryan currently is more educational for the community then?
Which will
I'd say
turn
so.
into a revision of
Most
the
of
code
these
after
are,
that process.
So we have a code that addresses window coverage areas, neon. Most are not already following the existing code. So you'll have a business with 10 neon signs when they're allowed 1. Full window coverage when there's a percentage that they're allowed to have based on their floor space. So I think more of an education.
Yeah, I mean, we're hoping that a lot of these people will come into compliance, but we're also hoping they will take advantage of the opportunity to come to us and say, listen, this is more realistic for me. Like, this is
Yeah,
not
but you're going to
fair.
make an exception to the code
No.
based on them.
After we get all the input from the business owners, we'll then look at our code and say,
And
are there
fix
any
it.
revisions we can make that make sense
So
to that
in
point?
other words, years ago, I don't think anyone here except me or maybe Michael Wright would remember Mrs. Tuttle, a nice lady. She used to be called the sign lady. Ryan's going to become the sign man to go enforce the signs. But you also, back, I think that was maybe in the early 90s, Mrs. Tuttle was doing it. She was very good at it. You also have to look on the water side of the signs, like business along the waterway.
Right.
There was nothing to code for that, and she wanted to. I had my sign when I had the marina on the water, and she gave me a hard time. And then I realized, I showed her that there was nothing in the town about signs on the water. That's something you really have to look at. And she said I was the only one who ever beat her on any of the signs.
I mean, this is something. So this is a starting point for
Yeah,
us,
starter point.
and it's a point to get. I think it's important to have information from the business owners, and I also don't want to go and blanket the entire downtown.
Nobody's saying
Hampton
that.
business
No,
community
nobody's saying
with
that.
violation.
I'm just wondering because if you're already looking to the future of modifying the sign code, which is very comprehensive, it's pretty massive. It's a behemoth.
It is.
I'm wondering, because a lot of that comprehensive language that exists in the code relies on that exception for political signs. So does it require, therefore, that we look at the sign code in a more comprehensive way and not necessarily just tackle this one and whenever because I think what the community is looking for is for more of a concerted effort toward removal and
Well, so to answer
And
that,
also real estate signs, and like you said about the power wash signs.
yeah, that's all outside the realm of this.
that's outside the realm of this bill.
But that's all exists. That all exists.
Right.
That all can be enforced today.
Yeah,
But
This
you don't
can't be
treat
enforced today.
you don't treat a real estate sign different from a power wash sign different
No.
from something else, right?
No.
No, the only
My point is you shouldn't
the
say
only
you should.
tolerance that's in the code for certain real estate signs is while a house is for sale. there are certain allocations for signage to be up that otherwise wouldn't be allowed to just be up. So you can have a listing sign for a house for sale, and it still has to comply with the dimensions and things like that within the code, but you couldn't necessarily just erect a sign any other day and put it out in the middle of your front lawn as like a freestanding signage in the middle of the property. So there are allocations within the code to obviously accommodate house sales and things like that. Directional signs. There's allocations in the code to deal with signage that common sense you would normally expect to be able to see on a property.
So go back to the power washings. Those signs, what the people keep on putting up, like you take one
And we
down.
keep taking
They're
it down.
illegal.
We know that they're illegal, but is there any recourse to go after those people?
Yes.
With the numbers, you can trace them back and give them a citation.
Well,
Or what's the recourse
tracing
in
back the number is not necessarily the easiest thing in the world, but we
With the
do
company.
issue violation notices, and we will issue summonses if we can get an accountable party associated with
Like
it.
if we see a party placing signs, right?
That's very hard to do.
Officers.
They do that.
Maybe though. You know, sometimes you get them in the morning and they're putting out all these lawn signs that they don't have authorization for.
Yeah.
So Ryan's staff can give them a ticket at that point. Otherwise, you don't necessarily know who posted them. Part of this also is it closes a loophole. So say I want to put my business signs up, and you know, any candidate, any kind of political message, and I just slap that little sticker over my business sign. Arguably, that's a political sign now. That's exempt from all of our other requirements. This way, at least we regulate that still. Someone could stick a bumper sticker on, the law office of whoever supports so-and-so, and now it's a political message.
Yeah, for me, this was more about the inequality between proliferation of signs in the unincorporated hamlets of our town. They get the brunt of this because all the villages already have this code on the books, and it's not fair.
There do tend to be stronger sign code regulations in most
North
of the
Haven.
villages. So by default, that then steers certain things into the township that don't fall into the villages because they're already regulating to this degree. And
So we can almost mimic what they have.
that's kind of what this does.
really tight.
Yeah, that's kind of what this does. Is it brings us a little closer. It still, I think, gives more latitude than some of the village codes,
Then
but
most
it
of
brings us a little bit more in line with that, so that we don't have people that say, "Well, I can't put it here." So there's 10 signs that I would have otherwise put in this village. Well, I'm going to go and slap them in unincorporated portions of the town instead.
So it doesn't say about the remedy.
They're just removed.
They're removed.
Well, what is that? I mean, we could remove them from the right of way, but we can't go on someone's
No.
lawn and remove it.
No, they would get it would be a violation at that. Like if they
So that doesn't-
decided to
If
do
you put a
something in
20 by
excess
20
of the.
sign on your front lawn, you're
Maybe
going to
it was
notice a
summer.
violation.
Right, but that doesn't have to be in here, the two methods of
The-
enforcement.
It's in the larger
It's in the
sign
lar-
code.
yeah. This is just a segment of it's a portion of
This
the
is
sign
an
code.
exemption of.
So there's something in the regular
Yes.
code about whether it's on town property or private property, how it's treated.
Enforcement of any section of this code would then be covered by the larger enforcement language for the entire portion of the sign code.
Mhm.
The designation of enforcement authority and what the enforcement mechanisms are and the fine structure for this portion of the code.
And I'm fine with Bill, if everyone else is comfortable with the 60 days, with Bill suggested, I mean, that gives you from Labor Day till Election Day, and I think that's more than
Yeah, it's more than enough.
That's plenty, 90
Yeah,
is too
I
much.
think the only reason we have put it at 90 is if there were a special election, and that would cover that whole
Oh.
extra time
But
frame.
wouldn't that be its own election?
But it would
Yeah,
be its own
so it's
election.
60 days.
technically, So,
I think 60 days is so far.
okay.
And it's nice that you're working on a overall code revision, but I
Yeah.
would appreciate if you would check with all of us, because I'm sure we all have our, rather than just giving a finished product, you know.
Oh, no,
like,
Of course.
I personally think we should eliminate backlit signs, even if it's over a certain period of years. You know, I think that's another way to clean up, some of the hamlets.
Which kind of amortizing them is a gentler way of like addressing it, going forward for some of for some of these locations too, so that it's not just like a big,
Yeah.
gotta get it out
Yeah.
tomorrow.
And they can
It's
save up
like
some
over
money to
time.
buy a new kind of gooseneck.
100%.
bag or
That's, I
something.
think that's a good potential remedy for some of that
And we
too.
felt like doing the hamlet as a whole was less abrasive than going and targeting certain businesses. It's a, you know, and it also will hopefully clean up the entire, something people have been asking for, why can't you clean up the existing downtown in Hampton Bays, and I think this will move us in that direction.
Like right now, can you put right on the windows, like posters and stuff, and block the windows?
Some percentage of it, yes.
Yeah, there are definitely liberties that have been taken with the amount of square footage of window coverage on certain businesses that you're seeing in places, and some of it's not, you know, poorly designed. It's not, you know, in bad taste necessarily. But when you start to look at things like, can the fire department see if they show up to the front of that building and there's a smoke condition inside? Those are the types of things, when you talk about covering windows too much, that's what we have to start to think about, or make people understand that that's, you know, a deeper reason for why you would want to have limited coverage
I mean, what was it?
for windows.
2 years ago, last year, the year before, there was right in the village, the deli had a fire, and the business owner across the street saw in the front window and saw the building was on fire. And was able to actually
Around
go,
the corner here,
yeah.
yes, yes.
Well, and also to clarify, this has only been a conversation at this point. There are no drafts floating around. There are no, so that's why it's
Of the-
been-
No,
of
there's
the
it's
larger
it's on for,
this,
no, this is on for
larger
public hearing.
No. So this larger conversation about downtown regulations is only a conversation
Right,
at this point.
right.
It's just started.
So when like the draft process begins on the larger comprehensive code, I would like to be included in those conversations.
We'll have
I think
another work
everybody will
session,
be.
well,
Yes.
Yeah,
That's
let's
what
have
I just
work
wanted to make
sessions,
sure.
that's not just.
Yeah, no, I know. I
one
just
thing
want to
There'll
make
be
sure.
community input, business
Yep.
input, and obviously, you know, board input on all of that stuff.
Sounds
I
good.
mean, you know, businesses are gonna think the more signs, the better, you know.
Yeah.
But we have to
The
limit it.
quality and the size and the placement.
Yeah, I gotta
Yeah.
Oh, very good, thank you.
All right.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Shall we move forward to a public hearing?
Yeah, Ryan, I'll talk to you about this
Okay.
after.
Thank you.
Not Ryan, Sean, sorry. I was looking at him, that was calling.
That's what you were talking about too. At some point, you know, just going to all the businesses and, right, just with some kind of notification, not slamming them with violations right away.
Right.
Because it's been going on for, you know,
So
a
long, and there
while.
were, they'd have to check the state of it, but there were amortization resolutions that we did pass in connection with a lot of the lighting sign issues, and they just kept getting extended, because every time they came up, it became a very controversial
Contentious.
topic.
I mean, when we did it in the village, we gave people 5 years, which I thought was a lot. But then at the end of the 5 years, of course, it was,
It's
you know,
again.
code enforcement
Yep.
had to go. You know, not everybody even at that point was in compliance. But slowly it does, and then it all looks so much better. Thank you.
Thanks, Ryan.
All right, I don't know if Tommy John's coming back, but let's close up with our town council and supervisor liaison updates. Bill, did you have anything that
Just-
you wanted to talk about?
We're waiting to, when I spoke to the deputy supervisor on the two topics of the West Hampton Senior and Rec Center and the Bel Air. You working on a few other projects with the highway.
That would be very nice to get
Yes.
those going.
Let me text Tommy John.
Okay, and we'll just go in order. Last Saturday I went to the reunion of the honor flight, and they had all the veterans come back, and they handed out photo albums from the trip, and it was very nice. They were all, you know, some of the pictures were the same for everybody, but they did personalize the books, and it was just another meaningful event for the veterans. So I was glad to participate in that.
That's good.
Yeah.
Last weekend, I went to the Eastport Fire Department's annual barbecue. Excellent chicken, fantastic chicken. There was
Go to the Southampton one.
Is it good too? Yeah, yeah. So they also had lobster options. I did not get the lobster option, but you know, everybody was having such a great time. The music was good. It was a very hot, very sunny day, but lots of families. The whole field was packed, and County Executive Romaine was there. He made it over with his wife. It was very nice to see him as well. And I also spent time after that. Actually, before that, I spent time earlier that morning at a Best Buddies forum at 75 Main that was held by Father Alex Carlutzos of the Dormition Church. He holds a forum with community leaders to have breakfast and talk about some of the ongoing issues in the community. Again, Ed Romaine was there. Saw him. Congressman Lalota was there as well. So it was great to see them. And there were a number of different topics discussed. The need for more housing was discussed. Traffic was, of course, brought up, but also the Shinnecock Nation, surprisingly, was brought up as well. And it was great to hear Congressman Lalota and County Executive Romaine's support for the nation and what they're aiming for in terms of economic development. So it was good to be there. It was good to see everybody as well. It's great to see Father Alex so involved in the community.
He really is special. Cindy?
Just a shout out to our town hazmat team. I know everyone was kind of put out by the traffic that we had last Friday with former President Trump's fundraising efforts in the town. I also want to thank the police department for the job that they did. The traffic, they don't have a call as to what gets closed and when. That's all in the Secret Service. I know our chief of police has stated that, he would make it known that, we have special circumstances in our town, and I want to thank the Southampton Press for including that in their article and including his dialogue on, the issues that we face and how he will make it known in the future that we're a special place, and it's, special considerations should be made. I know that as a former president, he didn't have availability of some of the military options that the current president had when he visited, but still things that, discussions that will be had. But on that being said, our hazmat team was actually the actual direct hazmat team response to the former president for his visit, and there's quite a few of them were on duty for that entire time that some people were sitting in traffic. They were on call, they were on standby, and I want to thank them for their service, as well as thanking our police, because they really took a beating from the general public when they had to tell people, I'm sorry, you can't come through here. It wasn't their call. They were just simply doing their jobs, and they did take a lot of heat that night. And so I want to thank them for being professional as always, and handling the situation that they were given, and they did an commendable job. So
yeah, people didn't know what, and they were getting mad about it.
I think it was because of the assassination attempt.
Yeah.
There was far more protocol put in place for this. I mean, future visits, earlier visits, like I said, you could go in one direction, you just simply couldn't go in the other direction, and they had literally rolling closures. This was not rolling closures. This was everything was shut down. Every overpass, underpass. I can't, the manpower that it took to do it, but I can somebody tried to kill the man, not very long ago. So, I understand their caution, their precautions, but like I said, I thank the public for having the patience that they did. I thank our police for doing a commendable job, and also our town hazmat team for being on standby. So
well done, thank you. All right, well, if that's it, and then I move to go into executive session to discuss acquisitions, confidential legal advice, and then close.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, everyone.